are with us from different countries. Honorable Hassan Ali Joho, the Minister and Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Mining, Blue Economy, and Maritime Affairs from the Republic of Kenya. We also have His Excellency Dr. Ali bin Ghanam Al Hajri, Ambassador of the State of Qatar and the Federal Republic of Nigeria. His Excellency Ambassador Christopher Bazivamo, Ambassador of the Republic of Rwanda to the Federal Republic of Nigeria, is also attending this summit. His Excellency Moses Michael Ngadu, Secretary General, African Mineral Strategic Group, is here, and he spoke to us yesterday. Honorable Jake Kabakole, Chairman of the Board, Liberia Petroleum Regulatory Authority, is also present. Joseph Robertson, Member of the Board, Central Bank of Liberia, is also with us. Honorable Sir Johnny, the Senior Economic Advisor to the President of Liberia, also joins us for this summit. It's important for you to know that we have representatives from Kenya, from the State of Qatar, from the Republic of Rwanda, from Germany, Liberia, Sierra Leone, Zambia, Spain, and India joining us for this summit. Before I get to the sponsors and partners for this summit, let me use this opportunity to recognize the president of ASPA and Wisdom International Group, who is one of our platinum sponsors, Engineer Adamu Husseini. He was here by himself yesterday. We also have with us for the technical and economic sessions, Professor Kevin Urama, the Vice President and Chief Economist, African Development Bank. I'd like you to please put your hands together for him. Professor Kevin Urama. You'll get to meet him much later, but for those of us who have been attending Afnis since 2022, you know he's a regular on Afnis, and of course, he brings fire when he speaks. Thank you so much, Prof, for your time, and thank you for joining us again this year. We appreciate you. I'd also like to recognize the Special Senior Advisor, Africa Sustainable Energy for All, Larry Shashore, who is here. We have Sumkele Awakalu, representing Ms. Damilola Gumbi, Finance Specialist, C for All. Hajia Aisha Rimi, the Executive Secretary and CEO, Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission, is here represented by Mr. Emmanuel Longza, that's the Deputy Director, Investment Promotion Department at the NIPC. Nonye Ayeni, Executive Director and CEO, Nigerian Export Promotion Council, NEPC, is also present with us. She was here physically yesterday. The CEO of Anfani Limited, Ishak Bolarinwa, Christian Mula, Head of Office, International Finance Corporation, is here represented today. And of course, he's been represented by Mohammed Aliyu. It's also important to say that as far as technology and data innovation sessions are concerned for this summit, we have Damiete Amakri, the MD and Geoscan Technologies, Nero Emiko, founder and EV of Kind Smith, Dr. Vincent Amu, CEO and MD Oil Dynamics Limited, and of course, Archibald Truck, the head of marketing and platform development, Core International. We have quite a long list here. Of course, panel on perception management, Kayode Ogunbi, Dakpo, Olorin Yomi, Shegun Tumori, Rabbi Hope Momo, and Lara Oweyo-Wise, of course, will join us for all of that. So because of time, I would like to warmly, once again, appreciate everyone for being present for day 2. Please, a round of applause for yourselves. Okay, so let's do this like this. If you appreciate the person sitting next to you, please could you just clap for the person for being here? It doesn't look like the person is well dressed, looking good, smelling nice, so could you make the applause a lot better? Thank you very much. So you are all warmly welcome. I wouldn't want to take too much time with the introductions, but of course, if there is need for some recognitions as we go on, we will take them. At this point, may we please rise for the national anthem. Thank you very much. Please take your seats. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to day 2 of the African Natural Resources and Investment Summit, Afnis 2025. If day 1 was about laying the foundation, today we dig deeper. We think bolder, and we connect the dots from mine to market, from vision to value, and from policy to prosperity. Yesterday, for those of us who were here, we explored the why. Today, we focus on the how. How do we harness our resources responsibly? How do we ensure value addition happens on the African soil? And how do we make sure no one is left behind? Not the women in the mines, the youth in innovation, or the communities on the front lines. Today is packed with powerhouses, policy leaders, brilliant minds, and future shapers. And trust me, you don't want to miss a single session. So I'd like you to buckle up. Stay curious, get loud, and let your energy power this room, just like we did yesterday. Because this is not just another conference. For those of you who have been attending Afnis, you would agree with me. This is a summit where we are reimagining Africa's future and its resources. So once again, I warmly welcome you to the second day of Afnis 2025. Please, a round of applause for yourselves. I am Ian Ray John, a broadcast journalist with the Nigerian Television Authority, and my colleague is also here with me, Wisdom Jumbo. We'll be doing this together. And just because time is a bit fast spent, we'll just get straight to the business of the day. And to speak to us first is the representative of the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, His Excellency Ambassador Yusuf Tuga, OON, who is being represented by Ambassador Oluremi Oliyide, Director of PRS. If she's present, we'd like her to please step forward. Oh, him. Please, a round of applause for him as he comes forward. The representative of the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Oluremi Oliyide, Director of PRS. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. You're welcome.
Thank you so much, esteemed ladies and gentlemen. It's good to be here, and of course to felicitate the organizers of this program, especially His Excellency Dr. Oladele Alake, the Honorable Minister of Solid Minerals Development. I bring you warm greetings from the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs, who actually intended to be here to join his colleague and to participate in this forum. Of course, we're well aware of several developments in the last few days, and of course, my minister certainly has been a part of all the issues around ensuring that we give a befitting burial to our departed former president. So I bring you greetings to everyone who is here, from the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Maitama Tuga. And of course, we congratulate the Africa Natural Resources and Energy Investment Summit organizers, those who have worked assiduously with the Honorable Minister to ensure that this happens. And I say good morning to everyone here present today. And we believe that it's going to be another great day of knowledge sharing, knowledge transfer appropriately rendered by all the presenters through their various presentations and the other engagements that we're going to have today. The Honorable Minister has been asked to speak and deliver a ministerial sectoral address on harnessing diplomacy for economic development. And our ministry, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, is currently guided by what is called the Tinubu Doctrine, otherwise the 4Ds Foreign Policy Trusts. And as announced by those in charge of the ceremony this morning, certainly the Tinubu administration has done a lot in supporting this sector, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has worked closely with the Ministry of Solid Minerals Development in various ways, using the instrumentality of the 4Ds Foreign Policy Trust. The 4Ds, as you know, are democracy, diaspora, demography, and development. Democracy, diaspora, demography, and development. And in plain terms, the 4Ds is a proactive strategic autonomy instrument in a polarized global setting as Nigeria seeks to maintain independence and freedom of choice to deal with friendly nations all over the world. The 4Ds is pro-citizens, pro-growth, resilient, and development enabling. In other words, the 4Ds reinforces the determination of Mr. President to move teeming Nigerians out of poverty domain, knowing full well that policies and actions of nations are the intersection of poverty and prosperity. So when you take the development pillar of the 4Ds, it is just a clarion call that Nigerians should take our destiny in our hands. All Nigerians must come together to ensure that we take the bold step of taking our country from the status of a taker to the status of a maker. We have long stayed at the level and the status of a taker, but we must move to the realm of makers. We must go beyond the fact that we are taken from other people. We must also be given to other people in terms of local content, in terms of manufacturing, in terms of processing, in terms of ensuring that our solid minerals are processed in Nigeria and they are taken beyond the realm of just being taken out in the raw form. For us, working with the development pillar of the 4Ds and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, therefore, we are crusading to ensure that Nigeria goes beyond not only made in Nigeria, not only must we have made in Nigeria, but we must have in addition made of Nigeria in everything that we do. Made in Nigeria would just be good, but we just want to ensure that we go beyond made in Nigeria to made of Nigeria, and we turn these to a global brand in all areas. The development pillar in the 4Ds aligns with the aspiration of the African Union talking about the Agenda 2063. Agenda 2063. Aspiration 6 of that agenda envisages an Africa whose development is people-driven, relying on the potential offered by the people, especially women and the youth. So under Nigeria's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and working on these principles that I have espoused, Mr. President has signed a lot of agreements and memoranda all over the world to ensure that Nigeria takes the best advantage and the best value possible for our mineral resources, working through the Ministry of Solid Minerals Development. And of course, all of these had been facilitated by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs through our missions all over the world, as diverse as China, UK, France, Brazil, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and several other parts of the world. Such engagements also include engagements with multinational entities. And of course, it's the responsibility primarily of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to facilitate all of these and to make it happen, and to ensure above all that our national interest is defended all the way by getting it right and ensuring that the right things are done. We have several examples from India, ExxonMobil, Total Energies, Jindal Steel, and then companies from Netherlands and several other countries. For instance, we are having the waste-to-wealth facility in Lagos, which came all the way from the Netherlands in 2024. I facilitated that as the head of Nigeria's mission to the Netherlands in 2024, last year. And of course, these developments have been able to come together and have greatly assisted efforts by government in the area of ensuring that diplomacy is put right on track to ensure that development and diplomacy are intertwined, and that Nigeria's diplomacy adequately supports the developmental efforts of the nation. Now, specifically, when we talk about the solid minerals sector, therefore, a few things that you can say in summary that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has done or is still doing with the Solid Minerals Ministry and other agencies as well as PAR are: 1, facilitation of Nigeria's access to global markets and investors through the presentation of our investment profile in the solid minerals sector. 2, facilitation of Nigeria's collaboration and engagement with other nations and international bodies on energy transition and mining-related issues. 3, harvesting and dissemination of best practice, knowledge products, research findings, and transferable solutions. 4, promotion of Nigeria's potentials in the solid minerals sector to attract foreign direct investment. And we're talking here about activities of all our missions all over the world in several areas. I'll mention a few of them. Sector delegation meetings from Nigeria, bilateral sector delegation meetings. We're talking of business and investment forum. We're talking of display of solid mineral samples in our missions all over the world. We're talking of partnerships matchmaking facilitated by our missions all over the world. We're talking of our publications, social media handles, websites. We're talking of citizens and diaspora engagements, where the potentials of Nigeria in these areas of solid minerals development, where they are shown to people, through slides, visual, the audio-visual presentations, trade fairs, trade exhibitions. All of these are part and parcel of what the ministry does through the instrumentality of our missions all over the world. Additionally, The ministry defends Nigeria's national interests in conjunction with sector experts at different international and multinational fora. Remember that Nigeria belongs to the Intergovernmental Forum on Mining, Minerals, Metals, and Sustainable Development. Nigeria belongs to the International Seabed Authority in Kingston, Jamaica, and Nigeria holds a critical position in the Credentials Committee of the International Seabed Authority in Kingston, Jamaica. Our mission in Kingston represents Nigeria appropriately on that body, working with the Ministry of Solid Minerals Development. Also, our mission in Addis Ababa works with the Ministry of Solid Minerals Development on the African Union's African Mining Vision, a program of the African Union. These are some of the areas where the ministry operates directly with the Ministry of Solid Minerals, and of course the energy sector, to ensure that Nigeria's best interests is defended at all times. Most importantly, therefore, talking about how 4Ds is used in this regard, it is the expectation of government that 4Ds must, therefore, eventually engender stability and sustainability. Sustainability in this context, which forms a part of what we are discussing, for us, must uphold three things. Sustainability must uphold human rights. Sustainability must uphold human dignity. Sustainability must also uphold human prospects for all Nigerians. So talking of sustainability in this regard, it must be sustainability that upholds human rights. It must be sustainability that upholds human dignity. It must be sustainability that upholds the prospects, human prospects of all Nigerians. And we say this mindful of the fact that all over the world you have emerging movements, particularly in the solid minerals sector, and it has been the responsibility of our ministry to work with relevant MDAs, including the solid minerals ministry in Nigeria, and of course the power ministry and others as well, to make them to understand the importance of policies and policy implementation, especially being mindful of the not in my backyard phenomenon and yes in my backyard phenomenon, two developments that have emerged in recent times and are generating a lot of issues all over the world. The not in my backyard phenomenon and the yes in my backyard phenomenon. Not in my backyard phenomenon is speaking about those who are desirous of having minerals exploration in their communities, in their areas, for whatever. Those who are not, the not in my backyard, are those who are crusading that minerals development, exploration, and activities thereto must not happen in their communities for obvious reasons: environmental degradation and other effects, climate change issues. The yes in my background phenomenon are those who support that you can do whatever you want in terms of exploration in our community, believing that there are benefits thereto. But the point for us is that these are some of the areas we are working with relevant ministries and agencies of government to let them do what is appropriate in order that Nigeria works best with global best practice in these areas. Consequently, it is our resolve, our conviction, and of course our efforts in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs working with the solid minerals sector is to ensure that the solid minerals policy framework engenders sustainable deconfliction in Nigeria. Our policy on solid minerals must engender sustainable deconfliction. It must engender sustainable development. It must also engender sustainable livelihood. Sustainable livelihood, sustainable deconfliction, rather than crisis and conflicts all over the places. Additionally, we live in a very volatile world And you are all very aware of those four imperatives that constitute volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity in our world. The VUCA world, as it is called, a world that is volatile, a world that is uncertain, a world that is complex, a world that is ambiguous, requires that every nation must have policies, and they must have programs that will ensure that such countries are not vulnerable. And it is our responsibility to ensure that we work with the Ministry of Solid Minerals to make sure that the volatility, the uncertainty, the complexity, and the ambiguity that ravages our world, they do not affect our development, especially in the sectors that are very critical to national development, indeed all sectors. Now, talking of final recommendations, therefore, the ministry, through the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs, has asked me to make the following recommendations in rounding off. There has to be intensification of robust legal frameworks that govern the solid minerals industry to boost investor confidence. Number two, wherever we have had issues of environmental degradation, we must do everything possible to ensure community restitution. Community restitution must be done in line with environmental protection, social safeguards, and government practices, ESG practices, and best practices in communities impacted by exploratory activities all over Nigeria. We must do much more of local content exploitation and in-country value optimization. In-country value optimization, local content exploitation are very essential. We must do whole of society enlightenment on mineral resource ownership, exploration, as well as energy transition. Nigeria must continue to sustain current efforts in forging beneficial alliances, cartels, and organizations that would help us to influence the demand and supply of critical minerals and rare earths, which we have over 40 of them in Nigeria. And that's why Nigeria's membership and leadership of the African Minerals Strategy Group is a welcome development. We must also avoid everything that could lead to primary and secondary sanctions from the global community in everything we do in this sector. The energy sector on the one hand, and of course the solid minerals sector, such that we don't have issues with the world class, the global powers in our exchange and in our case. So we must avoid primary sanctions. We must do everything possible to also avoid secondary sanctions, such that our trade relations will be perfect. Finally, by virtue of Africa's mineral deposits and Nigeria's mineral wealth, we can no longer afford to be spectators in the current dispensation of global energy and solid minerals investment for economic growth and development. Africa is the current mineral resource champion of the world, and will remain so if the sector is properly managed and its balance of power potentials are effectively harnessed. So the Honorable Minister believes that, of course, there are balance of power potentials even in the solid minerals sector, and we must do everything possible to take advantage of it. Just as it is important for individuals to turn their potentials to credentials, so must Nigeria do everything possible to turn our mineral resources to enduring national capital and national wealth. I thank you for your time. Good morning again.
That applause can be better, please. That is the representative from the ministry that is ensuring our foreign policies translate to real economic growth. The representative of the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Oluremi Oluyede. Many thanks. Please, another round of applause for him. And while that was going on, we had the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry, the the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Petroleum Resources join us, Dr. Vitalis Obi MNI. Please, a round of applause for him. So what we had earlier was the representative of the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs, His Excellency Ambassador Yusuf Tuga OON. Just to let you know that the Honorable Minister of State for Gas, Ministry of Petroleum Resources, would be speaking to us through his representative, but that will be much later. For now, we need to listen to one of Africa's foremost economic minds. He is the Vice President and Chief Economist of the African Development Bank, known for his bold insights on African development. And today, he brings a masterclass on how natural resources, technology, and innovation can unlock Africa's wealth. Please, a warm round of applause for Professor Kevin Urama. That applause should be thunderous.
Please, can you load the PowerPoint? And if I get something to move the slides. Good morning, all. Excellencies and distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to stand on established protocols. Today, I'm charged to talk to us about economic outlook of the African continent and key opportunities for mobilizing domestic capital. Reason for this in this conference, I think, is obvious. We talk about potentials, we talk about opportunities, we talk about resource wealth, but we know that without financing, we will not be able to leverage all those opportunities and potentials and turn them to wealth for the continent. How does this work? It's not moving. Yeah, that's what I'm doing, but it's not working. Okay.
This one is forward.
This one is down. Okay. So sorry about that technological glitch. So the presentation is going to focus on 4 key areas. First, I will try to reflect briefly on Africa's recent economic performance and the growth options, opportunities that we have on the continent. Then talk about the strategic sectors for long-term growth on the continent, and then key opportunities for mobilizing private sector financing, and make some recommendations with regard to the sectors that we're discussing here, solid minerals and the energy sector. Now, recent economic development options on the continent. From this graph, you can see very clearly that the continent is doing well in terms of GDP growth, with Africa's GDP growth continuing to be faster than that of the global average. Many countries on the continent has continued to remain on the list of the fastest growing economies in the world. And last year, we grew at 3.0%, which was higher than the global average. In 2024, we are growing at 3.3%. But this is expected to rise to 4% in 2025 and 2026, just around 4%, 3.9 to 4%. And this is because also we have downgraded our growth projections because of the recent trade wars and the trade tariffs that has been imposed by the United States. So our forecasts for growth was well above 4%, but we had to downgrade them based on the direct impacts of these trade tariffs on the continent by 0.2 percentage points and 0.4 percentage points in 2024 and 2025, respectively. Now, but these growth options often masks the lack of capacity of the continent to actually translate growth into wealth for the majority of citizens. So using the index of real GDP per capita growth for the whole period of 2025 to 2016, 2015 to 2016, we can see that Africa continues to trail all the other global regions. That's the red slide that you see there. And on the right slide there, you'll find that Africa, even though we continue to reduce poverty, the proportion of Africans that live under $2 a day, we still see that because of different global shocks, Africa continues to go in and out of poverty, and more Africans continue to slide into poverty. Again, because of population growth, the population growth rates are growing much faster than our fast-growing GDP growth rates, and because of that, the GDP per capita growth rates has remained very minimal at 0.7% in 2023, but we're expecting it to rise to 1.7% in 2026. But what have been the things that are driving Africa's growth? And in this context of what we're discussing here, the solid minerals sector, despite the huge potentials that we have in this sector, which I'm going to come to later, and also the energy sector, have not been major drivers of economic growth on the continent. We see agriculture is contributing significantly. Industry is contributing, but not as much as agriculture, but more increasingly technology services and services has become a major source of growth on the continent. What's the implication for what we are discussing here today? We hear of all these potentials, and in the next slides, I'm going to show you the estimated market value of all these raw minerals that we have on the continent, and also our energy potentials. But still, those potentials are not being effectively translated into wealth for Africa. And we need to do a little bit more also in the electricity, gas, and power sector in order to help access to electricity, but also base load access that drives industrialization. Because we can have these conferences. The moderator was saying I keep coming for this conference because I believe, and honestly do believe, based on my economic analysis around the world, that this sector, these two sectors, raw minerals and energy, is like blood for economic development everywhere. And Africa has huge opportunities to actually drive global development from this sector, but we're missing that opportunity. We continue to trade on raw minerals, dig out debt, D-I-R-T-H, often incurring debt, D-E-B-T, in order to dig out debt and sell those debts at very low values, and then buy final products, finished products at very high values. And that is not good economics. So how we can change that, it remains central to being able to drive economic transformation on the continent. So just look at these slides, and you can see that the mining and quarrying sector, that's the purple line almost at the x-axis there. So long as we hear a lot of policies being implemented, transformative agendas being implemented, we're not doing enough. We need to do a bit more in order to ensure that these raw minerals that we have, the natural resource assets we have, are turned into assets and not to resource cores, which is what we have been seeing on the continent. Now, speaking on the economic dynamics of the continent, our macroeconomic fundamentals has also been one of the major reasons why we're not having significant investments in the sector. Consumer price inflation continues to rise and remains up on the continent at about 18.7% last year. We are estimating that it's going to go down to single digits, 18.7%, yes, last year, 2024, but we're estimating that it will come down to 13.8% this year, which is still very high compared to our peers around the world. So a lot of work needs to be done on addressing the inflationary precious on the continent if we are going to be able to have access to capital enough to be able to drive the huge capital-intensive investments it requires for exploration and development of these minerals in order to translate them into economic growth assets. Again, exchange rate volatility remains a major challenge on the continent that drives investors away. Because you invest today, the value of your investments goes down tomorrow. And you have not done anything bad or made wrong decisions. It's just the volatility that we have in many major African currencies. Almost half of Africa's currencies saw significant depreciations in the recent years. And quite often, what is also driving investors away is that these volatilities and consumer price inflation are not things that the domestic private sector in nation states can address on their own, alone, because the world is now so interconnected, especially when Africa has significant publicly guaranteed debt denominated in foreign currencies, mostly dollars and euros, and therefore, when interest rates change by policies made by the Fed in the United States, your investments in Africa suffers from these two challenges that we have here. And this is also one important point. Each time I come here, I'm seeing ministries of natural resources, environment, and so on. The ministers of finance, central bank governors seem not to be very prominent in these discussions. But their actions and their roles will help significantly in mobilizing the capital we need to be able to address the investments required in these sectors. Another issue that needs to be pointed out is the public debt on the continent. Because of the two issues I raised already, even though governments are doing a lot in containing borrowing, so the stock of public debt is going down, but we are still seeing increasing rates of debt default risks and increasing rates of debt vulnerabilities because of interest rate hikes elsewhere, especially in the currencies in which our public debts are denominated, but also changes in the structure of the public debt, which is now going a lot more from the concessional financing from MDBs like the African Development Bank, World Bank, and the rest, to more commercial lenders that are shorter term, higher interest rates. And because of all these things, we are seeing significant government expenditure on these key sectors we talk about: education, the mining, energy, and other public health and other services, significantly constrained because countries are struggling to meet their debt obligations. So that, again, is something we need to think very carefully about. And as we continue the dialogue on trying to make Africa's capital, natural resources, human resources, and others work for development, and seeing representatives from ministries of foreign affairs here, we need to actually speak up to our global partners with regard to the inequalities that are occurring in the current global financial system that makes it very difficult for African nations to be able to break the vicious cycles of poverty. This is one of the two things I raise here, is a paradox of resource pricing, default rates, poverty rates, and countries' sovereign ratings. Most often you find that the cost of capital is defined by the sovereign ratings of countries. Because of the rules being applied, no matter how efficient even a firm is within a country, its own rating cannot surpass or be better than the sovereign ceiling that is put by the rating agencies. And because of that, African nations are often trapped in very high costs of capital. So to borrow in order to do exploration, invest in the technologies required to be able to even understand what resources you do have and how to harness these resources remain very challenging. Africa is paying 5 to 8% more than other regions of the world because of this issue of sovereign ratings. So representatives for the Honorable Minister for Foreign Affairs, and please, as you engage with partners, we need to have this discussion, because without it, we will continue to have these meetings and talk about solid minerals, but without the financing, the Minister for Solid Minerals and Mining and other things will be handicapped. It's difficult to find resources to invest. And there is, why I call it a paradox, is there is a study we commissioned with Moody's Analytics, one of the big sovereign rating agencies, global rating agencies. And then we found out that Africa is one of the least defaulting in long-term investments in the world, at 1.9% default rates. And this is long-term panel data over several years that they considered. So Africa is at 1.9% default rate compared to Eastern Europe, that is 12.4%. Even North America and Asia, North America is at 6.6%, and then Latin America 10.1%. So the question and the paradox there is, please, let's engage with our stakeholders and partners to understand why the agent, that is, the countries that are least defaulting, are paying the highest for borrowing in order to invest in long-term infrastructure. And then when we dig deeper, you'll find that there is significant strategic bias in the global financial system against developing countries and poorer countries. And that strategic bias also translates down even to national financing agencies in commercial banks, central banks, and even development banks. And that is typified in the right graph there when we look at credit rating agencies and GDP per capita. And that graph is simply telling us, world over, that the poorer a country is, the less likely you are able to get resources in order to be able to invest in mining and other development that can actually help you break the vicious cycles of poverty. The red dots there are African countries. Their ratings compared to GDP per capita of those countries. And then the blue dots, you'll find that the higher GDP per capita you have, the more access to capital you have. Why am I raising this here? We, even in Africa, will copy the same model. So our commercial banks are more prone to investing to high equity holders than to SMEs that are supposed to be drivers of development in every continent, every country and every continent in the world. That model needs to be re-looked at, because youths and women will have little access to financing to engage in these sectors. And what we have then is that we're seeing a booming sector that is actually yielding dividends to foreign investors, because they are the ones who are already at that high per capita incomes and can then invest in high-end technology, access capital, even from our own banks, and even our public finance institutions, our sovereign wealth funds, and so on. The investment paradigm in the world today discredits against the vision of being able to translate that D in the 4D, how did you call it? The 4D doctrine into development on the continent. So that needs to change in terms of how we engage with the global community. Then another point to make is, for us as Africans, quite often when we have these discussions, we are looking externally for resources. We think that financing will come from outside in order to make development happen in our solid mineral sector. It doesn't happen anywhere. And it's not going to happen in Africa. Can quote me 10 years down the line, and we're going to have the same discussions. It doesn't happen. Look at the trends from the data from 2018. You'll find that in addition to the volatility, which the representative from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs harped upon, we have significant decline in the rates of financing inflows that is coming into Africa over time. If you take this data back to 1960, you still find that we are continuing to have the volatility is there, so you cannot plan, but the quantum of financing is also going down. So when you think about foreign direct investment, it keeps going up and down. Portfolio flows sometimes goes up for countries that get their macroeconomic policy environment better, like in Nigeria, following the significant reforms done by the current administration, you can see portfolio flows going up. But then, if you have any blip in the economic governance indicators, portfolio flows also follows that. But foreign direct investment, ODA, has always been declining. And only 5 countries in the ODA countries have been meeting the 0.07% of GNI requirement that has been agreed on. So we see 3.4% decline and 3% decline in FDI and ODA last year. Diaspora remittances has continued to be the most trusted and most reliable source of financing in terms of both quantum and its resilience for several decades now. Again, this goes back again to the second D in the 4D doctrine, engagement with the diasporans. And I'm very happy when I came here yesterday, and I see that a number of the colleagues in the diaspora is being engaged by the minister to engage with him in helping drive this agenda. We have a lot of skills, a lot of financial capital, but also a lot of what I call the go-between advantage, understanding the world where they are living and the world where we are, that can be brought together in order to help drive investments in the sector and also improve the perceptions of risks in the sector as well. But we're saying this in the midst of recent policies. We know that ODA is going down and actually will continue to go down because of reprioritization of security expenditure and also fiscal challenges that is happening in many of the regular ODA countries. So planning with a hope of external investments coming in to develop our mineral sector or our energy sector is like a mirage. So we need to focus on domestic capital. We need to focus on domestic investors. We need to focus on how we build the business capital within Africa to be able to drive Africa's development. And I'm saying Africa repeatedly because many African countries are not liquid enough in terms of the scale of capital, fiscal capital within those countries to be able to drive the huge investments required in these 2 sectors, energy and solid minerals. So we need to pull together and form resource corridors, regional integration in practice. And this is also why I really love the initiative of these meetings that is being convened, bringing ministers of relevant ministries from across the continent together annually to consider how we can come out with investment plans to harness what we have. One of the challenges we've had all over is the divide and rule policy. That was one of the main policies of colonization. And that's also even what led to the Berlin Conference that divided us. So without harnessing that huge scale we have on the continent, it might be difficult for us to be able to turn all this talk into reality. So what are the potential downside risks that we need to watch in the macroeconomic policy environment? Tariffs and trade wars are going on and will continue. Policy uncertainty has already been pointed out by the Foreign Affairs representative. We have persistent inflationary pressures, which is not always within the control of our central banks, and we need to see how we try to address structural issues to address those challenges. Is time going? Okay. Thank you. 3 minutes. I'll finish soon. High interest rates and debt service cost is also there. Climate shocks and commodity dependence are things that we really need to continue to watch. Now, let's look at the strategic sectors that we need to work on. Huge potentials. Again, we know all this, so I'm not going to repeat it. In agriculture, natural resource wealth we have on the continent, 65% of the remaining arable land in the world, means that Africa should be defining the future of food and food security in the world. But what are we going to do? Invest in it domestically or allow others to do land grabbing again and be able to invest in it and create the future of food for the world? Energy, what 1.03 trillion by 2030. ICT, It's also growing in quantum rates, and also the rare earth minerals for electric vehicles and so on. We've already heard a lot of the potentials we have in them, so I'm not going to go back to them. Africa can significantly move off the battery value chain if we stopped trading on raw minerals and invested in electric vehicles, and Nigeria is trying to push on that. Different countries, Uganda and so on, are pushing on that. That's good. We need to continue to do that. And then value addition of these critical minerals is humongous. When you think only of four critical minerals, copper, nickel, cobalt, and lithium, is projected to grow by about 16 trillion US dollars in the next 25 years. Africa has a lot of these, so we need to refocus on how to leverage resource wealth in Africa to deal with this. But it's also good business for global partners that will join us in doing this. Our study has also shown that producing lithium-ion batteries in Africa is 3 times cheaper than doing that in the United States or in China. So if you are an investor in the US or China that wants to invest in the new green industries of the future, come to Africa and do it. Don't come to take the raw minerals and go back in order to invest in your countries and bring it back, because it's actually not cost effective for you. But you will also help create jobs in the countries there, reduce poverty, but also, above all, also reduce carbon footprint that is involved in shipping and the logistic costs that is there. So we need to do that a bit more in order to move forward. Where can we have that domestic capital to come from? Huge capital assets on the continent. On this, I will rush through it because we have just published a full report on making Africa's capital work for Africa's development. I have a copy here for the minister, but you can find it on the website and read on how we can harness the natural resources we have, what 8.4 billion human capital, business capital, financial capital, but also fiscal capital. The moderator is standing, so I'm going to rush through very quickly. Again, another report I recommend that you read is how we can turn our carbon assets into wealth for the continent. Again, just by including that carbon assets in our measurements for the GDP growth on the continent, we can increase growth by over 62.1 billion only, looking at carbon sinks alone. Again, let us not continue to sell these assets at low values. We hear about debt for nature swap. There are different swaps and different terminologies coming up, and African countries are entering into agreements which are suboptimal for them, for the countries. Please, I would like to say we should not consider our natural resources for sale. We should produce from these natural resources and create wealth from them. We can mobilize significant resources from our tax and non-tax revenue, huge headrooms that are there. Look at the resources, the report, and you can find them. But we also need to plug the leakages. Africa is losing 587 billion US dollars every year. That is translating to 1.6 billion US dollars daily because of inefficiencies in our rule of law, in our macroeconomic governance and institutional systems. So we need to do that a bit more to move forward. Leveraging the business capital, a lot of people have talked about it. About $125 billion potential in our informal sectors and in our SMEs. How do we invest in that in order to make that become wealth for us? But we also need to deploy financial innovations, blended finance, guarantees, synthetic securitization. All these things are available. Let's put them to scale in order to move things forward. But finally, let us invest in long-term key strategic sectors, not short-term trading, which our commercial banks are doing today. Commercial banks in Africa prefer lending to short-term rather than longer-term infrastructure projects. Pension funds are doing the same, just focusing on government securities and shying away from productive and unfamiliar sectors. And different challenges all around that we need to try and address in order to be able to mobilize capital in order to make these things work. But the African Development Bank has come up with a solution, the African Investment Forum. where we bring all the sponsors, the governments, to de-risk investments, apply our partial risk guarantees, credit risk guarantees to make sure that investments seen as risky can actually happen on the continent. And that's how we managed to broker on the Lagos-Abidjan highway. We're already now working on the Inga Dam project. Let's do large transformative resource corridors that can actually move Africa forward. If you think it's not possible, it is, because that AIF just introduced in 2018 has mobilized $225 billion in investment interest and closed 22 deals. So let's do more of such things at national levels on resource sectors so that we can move things forward. Quite often, everybody thinks, oh, where is the money going to come from? Read that report on making Africa's capital work for Africa's development. Africa has the potential to mobilize an additional $1.43 trillion just by improving macroeconomic prudence and efficiency, tax efficiency, and better utilization of our resources. When you look at the report, you see the specific areas where those resources are going to come from. Policy recommendations, we have heard a number of policy recommendations already from our Foreign Affairs Ministry and also from the Minister for Energy and our Minister for Mines. So, but let me just end with only one which they have not mentioned. There is no option for sound macroeconomic policy management and rule of law. This is what defines the price of capital. This is what defines the flow of capital. This is also what defines the stability of investments in countries. When we get this single policy right, we don't need to go about asking investors to come. They will rush to come, because as the world is awash with idle capital looking for where to invest. But lack of these is what is creating the challenge there. So there are specific policy actions that needs to be taken there. Local content we have identified here, but franchising is another one I need to talk about. We need to ensure that instead of signing mining concession agreements, we should be signing minerals development agreements. Let's not come to let them not come to mine our resources and take them away. Let them come and mine and develop them here so that we can create wealth for the nations, and it's doing well for everybody. But we also need to invest in resource corridors, because not any one country can do it on its own. Nigeria, of course, because it's large, may be able to do a lot on its own. But if we do work together with others, we'll be able to move things forward. Finally, preferred procurement. Preferred procurement means for me that we need to actually do Africa first, Nigeria first, Kenya first, South Africa first, and all these firsts, in the sense that we prioritize our own private sector, we prioritize our own products, we prioritize our own expertise. If you go into the mining industry, a lot of the experts that run around doing deals, defining contracts, are foreigners. And if the foreigners are defining the contracts for their countries, guess what will happen? Many African countries will be shortchanged. And that is why we established the Africa Legal Support Facility to provide global experts for this particular area, especially in the natural resources sector, to ensure that countries have top-end lawyers at their beck and call to support them in negotiating contracts. And we have tried to renegotiate contracts in Guinea, Conakry, and several countries, and billions of dollars were actually leveraged by doing that. Use those resources that are there so that we don't enter into contracts blindly. Sometimes $1 billion today may be worth less than $1 tomorrow. If you actually sell the best of your assets for $1 billion, but actually it gets resold to you for $10 billion. So let's be strategic, focused, and work together in order to drive this sector, which I believe, without it, we're not going to be able to drive development on the continent. There are several other recommendations which I'm not going to go to. You can look at it when you receive the PowerPoint, because the time is over. But finally, for our development partners, let us not look at Africa anymore as a treasure trove for the world. where we come to get the resources to develop our nations, to build technologies that we sell to Africa. Let us think of Africa as a partner where we can actually do well by doing good and create a global commons for everybody. Let's reform the global financial architecture, the risk perception, the global taxation, and cost of capital. Global taxation system is costing the continent $275 billion every year on base erosion and profit shifting by multinationals. That is not sustainable. We need to change that. Transparency, accountability, addressing corruption and rule of law needs both ends of the game to be able to address them moving forward. And finally, we cannot have sustainable mining without peace. With insecurity, it will be difficult to continue to think about mining as a growth sector in the continent, because to mine, you have to go to the forests. You have to go to places where you mine those resources. So focusing on peace and security is a key aspect of driving this sector forward. And then finally, please read the Africa Green Mineral Strategy, which was produced by the African Development Bank, the AUC, and UNECA. It has all the rubrics of how to turn Africa's mineral wealth into mineral assets for development and make the 4D doctrine work for Africa. Thank you.
Please, we can do better than that, please. Professor Kelvin Orama is Vice President and Chief Economist at the African Development Bank. And you agree with me, that was indeed an insightful presentation, and I implore you to try get that report and deep dive into that strategy. There's so much that we need to unpack. There's so much we need to know. There can't be peace. There can't be successful mining without peace. And that's a key point that he made. Once again, please round of applause for Professor Kelvin Orama. We move forward on today's program, and I think it's a very important one we want to take now from the ministry. You know, a couple of years back when we had the declaration of the decade of gas, quite a lot has happened, and the federal government is gradually turning that into not just a policy slogan, but it has turned into a reality. There's change coming to the energy sector. There's more funding coming into the sector. And just recently, in case you're not aware, we had the announcement that we've crossed the Ajaokuta Kaduna Kano project, finally crossed the River Niger. That's really a progress we've made in the sector. So the next speech we'll be hearing from the ministry will be on igniting industrial growth with Nigerian gas. And there's so much to learn from this. And I would like to invite quickly to talk to us about what's happening and what the federal government is doing, as there's a lot to unpack and learn there. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, I would like to invite to the podium to talk to us, representing the Honorable Minister of Petroleum Resources, is Dr. Vitalis Obi MNI, his Permanent Secretary, the Ministry of Petroleum Resources. Please, round of applause for him as he comes forward. Please, let's do better, so we encourage him to get here faster. Thank you so much, sir, and we really want to commend the ministry for the good work.
Good morning, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Please permit me to observe all hither the existing protocol for one time. I am Dr. Vitalis Obi MNI, standing in for my Honorable Minister, Right Honorable Ekperikwe Epo, who is the Minister for State for Petroleum Resources Gas. Here presenting his voice and paper on igniting industrial growth with Nigerian gas. I bring you warm greetings from the Ministry of Petroleum Resources Gas and express my profound gratitude to His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu GCFR for providing the visionary leadership under the Renewed Hope agenda, and for convening this presidential sectoral briefing at a time when our nation's industrial trajectory must be sharpened through strategic use of domestic energy assets, particularly natural gas. In his own viewpoint, my honorable minister has categorized his presentation. He's looked at Nigeria's gas wealth as a strategic industrial asset, strategic vision of the gas-powered industrial Nigeria, tangible milestones that have been achieved for industrial takeoff, particularly with respect to gas infrastructure, enabling domestic industrialization through policy and regulation, building gas-linked industrial corridors, looking at the case examples we already have in Nigeria, empowering the private sector and local content, and also putting up the roadmap ahead, looking at a 12-month strategic outlook, and finally, providing strategic recommendations to accelerate progress in this sector. With respect to Nigeria's gas wealth, being a strategic industrial asset, Nigeria holds over 210.26 trillion cubic feet of proven natural gas reserves, with potential to exceed 600 trillion cubic feet, making us the largest in Africa and 9th globally. Despite this abundant resource, our gas sector has historically remained underutilized, largely skewed towards exports, while local industries grappled with limited and costly energy access. However, under the Decade of Gas Initiative, 2021 to 2030, we are reimagining natural gas, not as a mere export commodity, but as a core lever for domestic industrialization, job creation, and economic resilience. Our goal is to turn this endowment into factories, fertilizer, food security, and functional infrastructure. On our strategic vision of having a gas-powered industrial Nigeria, the Ministry of Petroleum Resources Industrialization Blueprint rests on 4 central pillars. 1, energy access and reliability. 2, feedstock for industrial growth. 3, transition fuel for transport and clean cooking. And 4, export and regional integration. With respect to energy access and reliability, gas fuels over 80% of grid-connected electricity in Nigeria. Yet, inefficiencies persist due to infrastructure gaps. The ongoing upgrade of pipelines, gas processing facilities, and power plants is crucial to resolving this issue. On feedstock for industrial growth, gas supports a wide range of industries, including fertilizer, cement, glass, ceramics, aluminum smelting, textiles, petrochemicals, and agro-processing. The utilization of gas in Dangote and Indoma fertilizer plants has reduced fertilizer imports by over 40% since 2022. On transition fuel for transport and clean cooking, Nigeria is actively transitioning to CNG, LPG, and LNG, with over 600,000 clean cook stoves distributed and CNG buses deployed under the Presidential CNG Initiative. With respect to export and regional integration, through strategic gas diplomacy, Nigeria is expanding pipelines to Morocco and Equatorial Guinea and strengthening existing corridors like the West African Gas Pipeline. On the tangible milestones that the ministry intends to achieve, looking at gas infrastructure for industrial takeoff, between 2023 and July 2025, we have made significant progress. And the first of that progress is the OB3 pipeline. OB3 pipeline, now at an advanced completion with river crossings in progress, it will enable interconnectivity between the eastern and western gas networks. On the AKK pipeline, over 70% have been completed and designed to transport 3.5 SCF per day from Ajaokuta to Kaduna and Kano, opening up 6 industrial corridors and energizing over 5 million households. On LNG export growth, the NLNG Train 7 project, an approximately $10 billion worth of dollars project and expansion, is poised to boost Nigeria's export capacity by 30%. On the Ubeta and Ima fields, investments worth about $1.25 billion by Total Energies are on the way to feed domestic and international LNG demands. With respect to enabling domestic industrialization through policy and effective regulation, the Petroleum Industry Act 2021 restructured Nigeria's oil and gas regulatory architecture. And how did it do it? It established the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, and creating the Midstream and Downstream Infrastructure Fund to finance critical infrastructure. And the key reforms and incentives there include a 5-year tax holiday for gas infrastructure projects, gas pricing adjustments to 10% crude linked formula, 30% local content requirement enforced by the Nigerian Content Development Management Board, as well as $22.7 billion subsidy support to the fertilizer and LPG sectors. Not forgetting that 57 marginal fields auctioned to local firms to deepen gas access. With respect to building gas-linked industrial corridors, 3 case examples do stand out. The first case has to do with Lagos-Ogun axis. On that axis, the Dangote refinery, powered by natural gas, has reduced diesel imports and CO2 emissions. Ibeze's cement plant reports 25% emissions reduction since it has switched to gas. On the Niger Delta axis, the annual gas plant delivers 300 MMS SCFD, supporting industrial users in Imo and River states, while even creating over 100,000 direct and indirect jobs. On the AKK Abuja Kaduna Kano corridor, industrial estates in Idu, Zaria, and Bompai are being realigned to benefit from the AKK gas connectivity. Now coming to the private sector and local content. The industrialization of gas is led by the private sector, no doubt about it, with over $3 billion in private gas projects initiated in the last year alone. These projects include 1, Renaissance Africa methanol plant, 2, the Greenville LNG small-scale distribution hub, the first EMP's modular gas supply systems, the 4th, Nasenis CNG and LPG components for manufacturing projects, and the 5th, partnership with the Bank of Industry and NISAL for financing MSMEs. Now, what is the road ahead? There's a 12-month strategic outlook. 1, commission of 5 modular gas plants in Edo, Rivers, Nasarawa, Kogi, and Delta states by the 3rd quarter of 2025. Also, finalization of the National Gas Industrialization Policy Roadmap to identify and develop 30 gas-linked industrial zones. Thirdly, completion of the OB3 and AKK pipelines to unlock the northern industrial potentials. 4th, pricing reform for cost-effective and investor-friendly tariffs. The 5th, but not the least, is expansion of the LPG penetration to reach 50% household adoption by 2030. Having presented this, in conclusion, from gas potential to industrial reality, Your Excellencies, distinguished participants, Nigeria is gas economic oxygen. The foundation also, it is also the foundation for a resilient, diversified, job-creating industrial economy. At this juncture, we must avoid repeating the oil era mistake of exporting raw gas while importing jobs and refined products. Our resolve is to possess, industrialize, and prosper with gas. Going forward, what are the strategic recommendations that the ministry is proposing to accelerate progress it has made between 2023 and 2025? To consolidate gains and fast-track industrial transformation, we respectfully seek the following strategies to be implemented by the presidency. 1, presidential directive for fast-track approval and security clearance of gas infrastructure projects. 2, domestic gas supply prioritization for manufacturing and agro-industrial clusters. 3, executive order mandating CNG and LPG adoption in government fleets. And lastly, support for capitalizing the midstream gas infrastructure fund via the Nigerian Sovereignty Investment Authority and the PTDF injections. Under the visionary leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCF, along with unwavering commitment from all stakeholders, we are very confident that Nigeria will not only power her industries with gas, but will also lead Africa in sustainable energy-based development. Let us embrace this moment. Let us build with gas. Let us ignite Nigeria's industrial growth together. Thank you so much, and may God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. That's the representative of the Honorable Minister of State for Gas, Ministry of Petroleum Resources, His Excellency Right Honorable Ekberigwe Ekpo, PhD. Please, another round of applause for him. Dr. Vitalis Obi, MNI. Quickly, I'd like to run through a list of sponsors and partners for this event. It's important that we appreciate them, like we did yesterday. And for those just joining us, I'm sure you would agree with me that Afnis is like gold. Even if you missed day 1, day 2 is still priceless. I'm sure you agree. Listening to all the speakers so far, today's session is really on fire. And to those who have made this possible, of course, are our partners and sponsors. And first on the list is ASBA and Wisdom International Limited. They are one of our platinum sponsors. The Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, NCDMB, also a platinum sponsor. Geoscan Technology and Esoterra, a platinum sponsor. Segilola Resources Operating Limited, a subsidiary of Tor Explorations, gold sponsor. Excalibur Smart Mapping. The next list is that of our silver sponsors. Excalibur Smart Mapping, Oil Dynamics Limited, are silver sponsors. Bronze, we have Kaduna Mining Development Company Limited, Kaduna Electric, Government of Enugu State, the Government of Nasarawa State, the Government of Plateau State, the Government of Kogi State, the Government of Benue State, also here present. Other partners and sponsors include Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading PLC, that's NBET, Kind Smith Company, Motomos Metals, and Fani, Oil and Gas Free Zones Authority, Nigeria, Nigerian Indigenous Women in Mining, Steady Variables, Nigeria India Business Council, Sahara Prospectors, Africa Mini-Grid Development Association, the Nigerian Geological Survey Agency, Solid Minerals Development Fund, Woodcross Frontiers, SF Protective Services, Skylab FinTech, CNBC Africa, African Leadership Magazine, of course the Nigerian Television Authority is also on the list, Financial Markets, the Miners Magazine, and the Southern African Times. Please, a round of applause for our partners and sponsors that have put this together and brought this energy in one room. It's now time to move to the next item on the agenda, and our next speaker wears many hats. Currently a senior advisor, Energy Transition Planning, Africa, as Sustainable Energy for All. previously a senior special assistant to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, a renowned policy expert who is also a sustainable energy advocate, helping to shape Africa's critical minerals strategy for a just and inclusive energy transition. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together as I make welcome Miss Lanre Shashere as she comes up for our presentation. Please celebrate her. She'll be talking on the DRE Nigeria Fund and strategies for building local value chains. You're welcome, madam.
Good morning. Thanks so much to the moderator. Good morning, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Sustainable Energy for All, it's our pleasure to participate in Afnis this year and to organize this session, even at this difficult time. And on behalf of Sustainable Energy for All, I convey my condolences to the government and people of Nigeria at this difficult time. On to today's discussion, this year's theme at Afnis is on building sustainability through local industries, and this theme is timely, especially following the presentation made by Professor Rama earlier, which I found very rich and insightful. And as we witness the abrupt movements in the global trade regime, the message is increasingly loud and clear that Africa's true strength lies not just in its abundant raw material, but in its ability to process, produce, and add value locally. And this is a message that we know is championed so arduously by this important summit year after year. The transition towards the greater use of renewable energy efficiency, and electric mobility technologies must go hand in hand with developing local supply chains for these technologies. And at Sustainable Energy for All, we're working closely with the government of Nigeria, industry, and other partners to advance the implementation of the Energy Transition and Investment Plan and the Green Industrialization Agenda for Nigeria. The Nigeria Energy Transition and Investment Plan lays out a clear pathway for the energy sector, both for energy access and energy transition, up until the year 2060, reconciling the nation's energy, climate, and industrial goals. And this plan will drive a rapid expansion of solar power, batteries, and electric mobility. In the absence of any targeted actions, imports of these technologies will continue to grow. Nigeria imports solar PV modules, lithium-ion batteries, and electric vehicles, and these have grown from about $275 million in 2022 to $498 million in 2024. Now, building local supply chains for these technologies to participate in these value chains can translate into significant socioeconomic development outcomes in terms of job creation, reduced import dependency, and local value addition. SE4All's Renewable Energy Manufacturing Initiative works with governments, industry, skilling agencies, and financial institutions to support local assembly and manufacture of solar modules, batteries, and electric vehicles. And Nigeria has been a primary focus country for us and a shining example of localization efforts, especially in the solar PV module and electric vehicle assembly sectors. Now, there is a larger opportunity at hand. The rapid adoption of clean energy technologies is leading to a surge in demand for several critical minerals found here in Nigeria. Professor Rama made reference to, I think, four metals, including lithium and copper, nickel, and I think cobalt was the last one. Now, this is not merely a domestic opportunity, it's also a chance for Nigeria to become a key player in the regional and global value chain for energy transition technologies. The Ministry of Solid Minerals Development has been at the forefront of introducing reforms and strengthening institutional capacities, including with the establishment of the Nigeria Solid Minerals Company and driving investments in the sector through the Solid Minerals Development Fund. Now, SE4All continues to stand ready to support the ministry's endeavors through our work with the Council for Critical Minerals Development in the Global South, which is a platform that we've developed and continue to mobilize to deliver tailored support to governments on data and analytics, capacity building and collaboration, as well as partnerships. Now, through the work of the Council and in partnership with the Ministry, we are currently developing a critical minerals demand supply assessment for Nigeria and providing a data-driven roadmap on opportunities for Nigeria to maximize local value from its mineral resources. And my colleague who's speaking after me, will share some preliminary findings from the study during this session. Now, a key focus of our work is also to unlock investments for the energy transition through innovative partnerships and models that address the most challenging financing constraints. An example is the $500 million Nigeria Distributed Renewable Energy Fund, the DRE Fund, which convenes key ecosystem partners, including SE4All, the International Solar Alliance, the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority, and Africa 50 to catalyze investments in distributed solutions which are key to bridge the energy access gap and to drive economic development. We invite governments, industry, financing institutions, and development partners present here today to work with us as we strive to advance green industrialization on the continent. Africa must build an integrated, sustainable future from mineral development to renewable energy manufacturing and universal energy access. The path is clear and the resources are abundant, and the will is strong. Let us now move forward with shared purpose to forge the partnerships and mobilize the investments needed to make this ambitious vision a reality. And SE4All remains a committed partner to governments and stakeholders on this journey. I'm going to introduce my colleague now, Somkele Awakalu, who's a finance specialist who's leading our work on building these financing platforms to mobilize finance both on the distributed renewable energy side as well as the green industrial value chains. Thank you.
Good morning, Excellencies. Good morning, Honorable Ministers and representatives here present, development partners, colleagues. I'll stand on any existing protocol. Okay. So briefly, I'm here to just speak about some of the strategies that SE4All is undertaking to build local value chains and advance the energy transition, especially in Nigeria. Where do I point it to? Okay. So I'll just quickly talk about who we are as SE4All. SE4All essentially exists to deliver SDG 7, which is access to sustainable, modern, affordable, and reliable power for all. So everything that we do is designed towards unlocking universal energy access, scaling renewables, and increasing efficiency, which will deliver real progress on sustainable energy for all. That's a direct quote from my CEO, Danlala Ogumbi. I don't think this clicker is working. Oh, down button is forward. Why? That's it. Okay. Okay, thank you. So this is SE4All at a glance. We have around 140 staff. We operate in about 30 countries. And our delivery model is essentially lean field-driven teams that combine global advocacy with country-level delivery. We're hosted by UNOPS. We are supported by a diverse group of sovereign donors, philanthropies, and multilateral partners. So the reason how this segues nicely into the Nigeria Energy Transition Plan is because SE4All was pivotal in the development of the Nigeria Energy Transition Plan that was launched in 2022. Yes, which clearly articulates the pathway to net zero by 2060, focusing on 5 key verticals that are responsible for 65% of Nigeria's emissions. You can see from 2020 when the study was begun, the metric tons of CO2 equivalent, and that begins to taper down in 2060 if we take some strategic actions. So in buildings, which is really around clean cooking, and I'm happy the permanent secretary from the Ministry of Gas spoke about clean cooking, is primarily driven by a shift to biogas-based cooking and electric cooking. In transport, is also due to uptake of electric vehicles in the passenger car segment with about 80% penetration. And in industry, is really around decarbonization efforts in cement and ammonia production and 100% shift to zero emission fuels for heating. In oil and gas sector, this transition will be driven by falling global demand for oil, as well as reduced flaring and improved electrification in these upstream activities. And in power is 100% increase in solar, and we start to replace gas as a transition fuel and completely eliminate diesel gensets. Professor Orama already made mention of this earlier. It's extremely expensive for Nigeria to transition. In fact, around $410 billion is required from 2022 when this plan was launched to 2060. And that number, we've done a second iteration of the energy transition plan, and that number is a bit higher at about 430 billion. And you can see that there's significant capex expenditure that is required on the infrastructure side. Most of this effort will be needed in the power sector to finance generation capacity and transmission and distribution infrastructure. But you can see there's also going to be a net off of that on the OPEX side, because there will be significant savings in terms of fuel costs for power, considering the switch to 90% renewables. This is very important for my next point, which is really around investment mobilization. My colleague Larry already alluded to it. SE4All has partnered with the Nigeria Sovereign Investment Authority, Africa 50, and the International Solar Alliance to actually put our money where our mouth is, or actually our efforts where our mouth is, because we were part of a session last week, and the key critical comment that came out that I left that session with was we need to move away from megawatts of talk to megawatts of action. We need to actually stop going to talk shops and talking through all these things and actually start doing things. So this is just a little picture of the cost of power unreliability in Nigeria and the case for a clean energy scale-up. In Africa, there are 600 million people that are lacking access to electricity as well as reliable access across the continent. Nigeria is responsible for 30% of that. So we have around 86 million people that lack access to the national grid. And even of the 60% of people in Nigeria that are connected to the grid, the power is not reliable. There are sometimes power outages and incessant breakdowns of the grid. There's an installed power generation capacity of around 12.5 gigawatts, but there are operational efficiencies that mean that we typically only deliver 4,000 megawatts. We have struggled for decades with inadequate power supply, which has severely impacted the economy. And you can sort of divide the challenges into the on-grid sector and the off-grid side. I won't really go into that, but I'll really specifically speak on the off-grid side because that segues nicely into the work we're doing on the DRE fund. SE4All released a study last year, and it is estimated that in Lagos State alone, so this study was a GenSet study about the use of generators in Lagos. So we always sit down, we try to estimate, but we decided that instead of estimation, let's go and do some field study. And in households alone, there's about 4 million gensets, 4.14 million gensets that are generating about 8.8 gigawatts of power. Compare that to the 4 gigawatts that come from the grid, you can see what Lagos alone is generating. And of that, per annum, there's about 67 billion liters of PMS consumed to fuel those gensets. That's the market opportunity that we're looking at for distributed renewable energy. So what have we done? We've decided that instead of just talking about it, we have been involved in trying to ensure the proliferation of solar and storage systems in country through our UEF program, We've solarized some markets in Surulere. And we have seen that one of the major challenges that we have is that developers, or let's call them renewable energy service companies, that will deliver these solutions in the DRE space are lacking equity. Because they've been collecting debt, but because of currency mismatch problems, the macroeconomic headwinds that Professor Rama spoke earlier, the foreign debt is becoming unsustainable. So we're introducing equity. Through the DRE Africa platform, in partnership with International Solar Alliance, Africa 50 and NSIA, SE4All is looking at investing in mini-grid developers, C&I solar aggregators that will deliver attractive returns with high impact. Professor Rama also spoke about blended financing. We are going to use blended financing, combining concessional capital with commercial capital to ensure that the pricing is good. So this is a Pan-African DRE platform, but we are focusing initially on piloting this in Nigeria because of obvious reasons: the market opportunity, the size, and the availability of that local capital in country. There's going to be risk mitigation strategies that will be undertaken, including bringing in local currency financing. Ultimately, for the fund to be sustainable and for developers to scale and grow, we need to have access to local currency financing, whether it's from commercial banks, whether it's from non-banking financial institutions, is extremely important. And one of the unique value propositions that this fund is bringing to the fore is that we're going to crowd in pension fund capital. Obviously, pension funds have a fiduciary responsibility. They can't just invest in anything. So if you see that the pension funds are investing in this fund, it means that it's extremely viable. So for those of you who are in financing institutions that are looking to invest in a fund, the Nigeria DRE Fund is available for you. So it's really going to de-risk investment in Africa. This is just a quick overview. The target fund size is between $300 million to $500 million, and the equity investments will be about $5 to $20 million per investment, and with a 40% allocation limit on each of the segments that we've identified: embedded generation, mini-grids, solar home systems, and this is in Nigeria. I just want to speak quickly about the four key value propositions. The partners, the GPs who are in this situation, Africa 50 and NSIA, have significant track record and experience. Anything NSIA touches in the infra space turns to gold. So they're a partner that we're really looking forward to working with, as well as Africa 50, who have continent-wide experience. There's an access to a curated pipeline of pre-screened investment-ready projects, And one of the challenges that we have in accessing financing for renewable energy solutions is that they always say, where is the pipeline? I can assure you there's a pipeline of projects if you use a different investment lens and don't look at it from the same conventional lens that you use for certain other projects. The fund is going to be structured for commercial viability and will offer stable long-term cash flows from DRE assets with low correlation to traditional markets. So some of those macroeconomic headwinds that were spoken about earlier may not necessarily affect investments here. And this is a unique opportunity to gain strategic exposure to Nigeria's rapidly expanding 10 billion annual DRE market with minimal competition. I won't go into the fund characteristics, that's quite... So the investment thesis is clear. I've already spoken about the market opportunity from displacement of gensets. If we can translate that 67 billion liters of PMS annually, multiply that by whatever the current rate of PMS is, you can see the amount of money that can be expended on a more sustainable solution that over the lifetime cycle of the equipment is much cheaper than generators. This fund is going to catalyze capital from the private sector to help expand the sector. There's going to be innovation around local currency instruments, hedging tools, Naira-denominated inflows, and credit enhancement tools in partnership with various agencies. We have strategic partner advantages, which I already spoke about. an aggregated pipeline of bankable projects that has been vetted at the highest level, and clear exit strategy. One of the things that investors always think about is, if I put my money in there, can I easily exit? There are clear exit strategies that we have here. There's also the socio-economic impact, because you can't underestimate the multiplier effect that having access to reliable power will have on other sectors, including agriculture, healthcare, education, and whatnot. And this fund will mobilize institutional capital at scale. So that's what we're doing on the financing side. So I think I'll quickly skim through what we are doing in trying to build energy transition technology value chains in Nigeria. So in 2023, SE4All launched the Africa Renewable Energy Manufacturing Initiative, Africa REMI, and that is to support local assembly of solar PVs, EVs, that's electric vehicles, and batteries. The Africa REMI is currently active in Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, and South Africa, and is looking to expand into Botswana, Tanzania, and Senegal. The honest truth is that in order for the energy transition or clean energy investments to be sustainable, they must begin to be onshored on the continent. And you'll see later on in the presentation what the opportunity cost of these imports are on Nigeria. So in 2024, SE4All, Swanti Global, and UC Davis launched the Council for Critical Minerals Development to sort of take a more holistic approach to green industrialization. And together, these efforts form SE4All's Green Industrial Hub, supporting end-to-end transition value chains in the global south. So in Nigeria, our work on green value chains is built on strong collaboration with government. And at this junction, I want to thank the Ministry of Solid Minerals for extending this invitation to us. And with support from the Ministry of Solid Minerals Development, we're pleased to share that we have some early findings from Nigeria's Critical Minerals Demand Supply Assessment, which is a key step towards accessing or securing access to transition minerals aligned with the energy transition plan I had earlier mentioned. And on the downstream side, we are partnering with government and industry to develop a solar PV localization roadmap aiming to retain more value within Nigeria. To some pretty graphs. I'm an economist, so we can't do presentations without this. Over the last 2 years, imports of fully assembled solar PV modules into Nigeria has surged from $118 million in 2022 to $157 million in 2024. I mean, if you look at that time frame, it's pretty clear what some of the determining factors are: removal of the PMS subsidy and maybe some of the unreliabilities on the grid. A lot of people are transitioning to DRE, so because there's not much local capacity, we're seeing a rise in imports in that time frame. In parallel, imports of fully assembled lithium-ion batteries has also nearly doubled. This rising import dependence represents a missed opportunity for local manufacturing, for job creation, and value retention. And if the trend continues, Nigeria could import about $1.2 billion worth of solar modules by 2030 and $5.5 billion worth of that by 2040. We have been saying a lot of billions. If we multiply it by the current exchange rate, it's actually trillions of naira. So just for us to have that in mind. However, if Nigeria localizes 100% of module assembly by 2035, the benefits could be significant. There could be an addition annually of 8,630 jobs, an $80 million reduction in annual imports, and between $350 to $550 million in new investments in domestic assembly capacity. I think these numbers underscore why a solar PV localization roadmap is urgent and strategic. speaking again. Okay, thank you. So how do we maximize local value? We can maximize local value through backward integrations with minerals development. Because to truly maximize local benefits, localization efforts must simply go beyond assembly. Backward integration into upstream and midstream segments, especially mining and processing, is extremely essential. Building the entire value chain for clean energy technologies is where the real opportunity lies. Greater value capture, sustainable industrial growth, and far more potential for GDP and local creation. My colleague Larry already mentioned what we're doing around collaboration and capitalizing South-South and international cooperation through the Council for Critical Minerals Development in the Global South. So recognizing that there was a need for a more holistic and strategic approach to green industrialization, SE4 launched the Council for Critical Minerals Development in the Global South in 2024, which you're seeing on the screen. The Council is a joint initiative with Swanty Global and University of California, Davis. It complements our Africa Renewable Energy Manufacturing Initiative, which I spoke about, by focusing on the entire spectrum of value creation from mineral exploration to end-use technologies like batteries and electric vehicles. The Council strengthens SE4's broader agenda under the Green Industrialization Hub, a platform that supports countries to develop resilient, inclusive, and competitive green value chains. So this is just some of the objectives and pillars of the work. I won't go too much into it, but the Council really works across 4 key pillars: data and analytics, collaboration and partnerships, advocacy, and capacity building, which is really helping countries to strengthen institutions, their regulatory frameworks, and technical expertise. So let's talk about the preliminary findings of the Nigeria Critical Minerals Demand Supply Study that Larry had alluded to earlier on in her speech. So in Nigeria, the Council's work is aligned with the country's energy transition plan. Our current assessment looks at how Nigeria can secure access to critical minerals like lithium, copper, and graphite, localize manufacturing and processing, particularly in solar PV and batteries, enhance regional cooperation on mineral trade, technology sharing, and infrastructure. It also identifies opportunities to strengthen exploration and refining capacity, ESG compliance and institutional coordination, and trade diversification strategies. This is essentially an overview of the critical minerals, which will be out later on. So looking at this, the solar PV sector in Nigeria is poised for rapid growth. I think Professor Rama also alluded to that. Installed capacity is projected to reach 174 gigawatts by 2050, a major increase from current levels, and this surge will drive up demand for several key minerals, most notably aluminium, copper, and silicon. These minerals will form the backbone of Nigeria's solar supply chain, and local access, processing, and manufacturing capabilities will be essential to meet future demand sustainably and competitively. So the overall mineral demand for these 4 minerals is projected to reach about 337 kilotons by 2060, and that's driven by aluminium, copper, and silicon, as I mentioned. So the mineral demand for electric vehicles and battery energy storage systems in Nigeria is also set to grow exponentially. Today, the demand is almost negligible, but by 2060, it will reach over 10 kilotons for EV-related applications, around 6,000 kilotons for battery energy storage systems. And this growth will be primarily driven by graphite, copper, and aluminum, as I said earlier, which together will account for nearly the entire mineral demand from these technologies in Nigeria. The implication is clear. Industrial planning and upstream supply strategies must begin now to meet that future demand. But the thing about it is that mineral production alone won't be enough. Recovery and circularity will be crucial for long-term sustainability. Materials like nickel, cobalt, and manganese are particularly well suited for recovery, offering up to 25% recovery potential through end-of-life recycling. For aluminum, copper, and graphite, recovery rates are slightly lower, but still significant. And as demand grows, improving this recycling infrastructure and adopting circular economy practices will be key to reducing pressure on virgin mineral extraction. So if we look at the projected domestic lithium production, and if we are to assume 100% localization, supply just about matches demand in 2030. But by 2040, domestic demand will outstrip supply, given the significant growth in development of energy storage solutions and mobility applications. So recycling from end-of-life batteries can bridge the gap, but only reduce primary demand by 10%. This is my final slide. Don't worry, you don't need to walk again. So the final report will be launched in September 2025, but there are some preliminary findings emerging from this analysis. Nigeria must prioritize upstream and midstream investment, especially in lithium and copper, to secure a strong position in the associated value chains. The country should focus on exporting processed lithium, while also building trade partnerships that enable imports of cells at preferential tariffs and invest in local capacity for battery pack assembly. Graphite represents strong long-term industrial potential, while nickel, manganese, and cobalt offer opportunities for revenue diversification. The retirement of second-hand EVs will generate short-term recycling flows. These should be fully integrated into circular economy planning. When we're considering second-life batteries for stationary storage, we must balance short-term energy access benefits with the need for timely material recovery to ensure sustainability of the mineral supply. These insights will be further refined in the lead up to our final report release, as I mentioned, in September 2025. Thank you very much for listening, and have a good session.
Please, let's give him one more time again. Please, round of applause to Som Kele, who is a finance specialist. Personally, I'm very aware of some of the analysis because, of course, for what I do, hosting the Energy Outlook TV show and all the analysis with stakeholders. If we put in more investment in manufacturing some of this item in country, like battery and the solar panels, there's so much more progress that we can achieve within the sector. So thank you so much for that analysis. We'll move to the next session real quick. And this time we're discussing mobilizing Africa capital for Africa's development. Now, when you look at this topic, of course, when it comes up, he will tell us more about it. If we want to deepen infra-African investment, if we want to drive more investment into Africa, if we also want to stop the dependency on foreign aids and, of course, our external debt, there's more we need to do in mobilizing, funding or capital for Africa. So this will give us more insights, as we'd like to invite the presenter for this presentation to tell us more, give us more insight into it. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency, please may I invite to the stage to give us his presentation, Tim Tokun, Managing Partner and Managing Director, Mortimus Metals and the Africans for Africa Initiative. Please, a round of applause for him as he comes on stage for his presentation. While we're waiting for him to come up, after this session, we'll quickly go into the CEO Ministerial Roundtable that will be holding for our VIPs and speakers. After this session, we'll be moving to that. Tim Tokun. Okay.
A few minutes ago, Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the
All right,
scenario
in the
that just took
absence of
place here
Team
now,
Tokun, I'll quickly want to recognize the presence of the Executive Director and CEO of Nigerian Export Promotion Council, NEPC, who is here with us. Please, let's celebrate Nonye Ayeni. Please, a round of applause. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us. And she would speak with us briefly just before we break for the ministerial roundtable in the absence of Team Tokun. Please, we'd like Nonye Ayeni to please step forward. A round of applause for her as she comes forward. All right? So it means we're ready for the ministerial roundtable. But quickly, I'd like to mention one of our bronze sponsors, and that is African Natural Resources and Mines, being represented here by Pata Gosh. Thank you so much for your sponsorship. Now we would break for the ministerial roundtable. The VIPs who are supposed to participate in the ministerial roundtable, the ushers will guide you on where to go. Just know that the ministerial roundtable is a very critical aspect of this conversation. All right, a quick correction. Team Tokun, if you're here, we'd like to see you. Either signify by raising your hands or stand up, please, just so we would know what next we're doing. All right, we'd like you to please step forward. We'll take a presentation now while you're on the podium, and then you'll make your presentation. We'll have Team Tokun before the ministerial roundtable, and then there'll be tea break.
distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the scenario that just took place here now, a few minutes ago, gives me some kind of nostalgic feeling.
I think we've just witnessed something phenomenal.
Your Excellencies, captains of the industry, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, don't despise the humble beginnings. Every big thing starts with a first step.
It is very important that when we come together, great minds coming together, we shouldn't just end with talking. So today, we are coming to launch an initiative, a simple initiative that is to empower and enable each one of us who is African, each one of us who is of African heritage, to actually make your individual contribution.
And therefore, as we are saying that we need to turn our talk into action, this is it. And now we have the opportunity to contribute to our motherland, Africa.
So Africa was carved out artificially without recourse to the peoples of Africa at the time. We had no choice. We were not even at the table. We were not represented when our destinies were carved out in the interest of the European powers.
The Africa we have today is Africa building Africans. This is the reason why things don't work, because we expect that thing called Africa to build our countries. It should be the other way around. It should be Africans building Africa. We have the solutions because we know our problems. So therefore we must come together and be able to start solving these problems together. So our initiative is called Africans for Africa. We have a lot of Africans in the diaspora who want to give back, who want to make investments, but they don't know where do I start from. We have a lot of us in this room who have small resources, but if pulled together, we can actually be able to make a difference. Let me give a simple example. If 1 million Africans put together $1,000 each, and you have 1 million people, that's $1 billion. We shall look to the private sector to see which projects are lucrative, and then we shall ask Africans to provide money and ownership to actually be able to achieve this.
Africans for Africa, I thought it should have been the other way around, Africa for Africans. But then later on I realized that no, perhaps it is Africans that are going to develop Africa. That is why it is Africans for Africa. So I think it is a very great initiative, and we should all give it our fullest support. And I'm also wondering if we are going to be the first subscribers. But I think we should support it. Thank you very much.
With such initiative, it's a time we rediscover our somebodyness, our dignity and our pride in resolving our problems. And I am here to commit Sierra Leone to this initiative on behalf of His Excellency President Joseph Madabio and the people of Sierra Leone, that will do this with passion, commitment, dedication, objectivity, transparency, accountability, to ensure we do the right things right.
I'm so excited about this, and I'm sure now we can proudly say we are waking up the giant so that we can start using our resources to the right way. And therefore I would like to urge you, we have started, and therefore I would like to urge you to also follow suit so that we can work together. When I was coming here, I had just finished an engagement with Malawians in diaspora, and therefore this is now an opportunity that we are going to give to our brothers and sisters that are in diaspora so that they can also be able to be part of this. And therefore let's take the opportunity and be able to contribute to our motherland, Africa. Thank you.
But today, we've turned full circle. Here on this table, the destiny of Africa and Africans has been brought back in our hands. And regaining our composure, our confidence, and bringing our economy back into our hands. And so, I want to say categorically that we in Nigeria are in full support of this initiative. But to congratulate this body for this bold initiative, bold and necessary initiative. Congratulate all the ministers here present and those not here. Congratulate the participants at this event, the organizers, and everybody involved in putting this very successful show together. And it has culminated in this very pivotal action that just took place. I want to commend this to every one of us in this hall and to those Africans beyond this hall to give this initiative a full cooperation. Because, like Moses said, like Monica said, a giant oak begins like a tiny seed. So when the tiny seed is sown, it grows to a giant oak. What we have done here today, in years to come, history will be kind to every one of us that has taken part in this venture. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you all enjoyed the video. Can you get a cumulative yes for that? My name is Tim Toku, Managing Director for the Africa for Africa Initiative, and I'm here to formally launch this initiative. It's been a bit of a long road, but I think we're getting to the tail end of things now. I'd say the most dangerous of all the myths that predominate the ethereal world is one that us humans are winning ourselves off physical materials, mineral resources. Some economists point to data from the several parts of the global north showing that we're consuming ever fewer resources for each dollar, sterling, euro of income that we generate. Whilst for most of human history, our economic output has closely tracked our exploitation of natural resources and indeed energy consumption. In the past couple of decades, these two lines have diverged. GDP kept on rising, whilst our use of such resources have plateaued. This, they say, is cast iron proof that we're getting more from less. I, Tim Tokun, humbly disagree. I should tell you why. In 2021, latest year of data I could get hold of, the world mined, dug, blasted more materials from the Earth's surface than the sum total of everything were extracted from the dawn of humanity all the way through to 1950. So consider that for a moment. That is staggering information. In a single year, we extracted more resources than humankind did in the vast majority of its history. From the earliest days of mining, through to industrial revolution, through the world wars, everything. Dare I say, mining is the bedrock of civilization. And Africa is host to 35% of all mineral resources known. Mammoth, if you know what to do with it. I quote, "Those who decry mining are ignorant of history. If they knew anything about metals, they would know that all business, all industry, all human development depend on mines." Unquote. William Salter, governor of New York in 1938. Even the tablets you consume, the supplements you consume, everything comes from underneath the soil. With this, I introduce you to the Africans for Africa Initiative, which also owns the Africa for Africa Fund. Initiative will achieve three things. One, create wealth for a meaningful magnitude of Africans from African resources. Two, gain respectable parity alongside the foreign exploration and mining companies operational on these shores. Three, facilitate a visible uplifting of our frontline communities who happen to be the indigenous landlords of justice anyway. The social license to operate firmly belongs to these communities. Ladies and gentlemen, respectable African equity and thought representation has been ominously missing from our amazing projects that have come from this continent. When I started my career 23 years ago, the metals of interest to the world was gold, diamonds, lesser extent copper. Fast forward to the last 10 years, we started seeing things like graphite and cobalt and manganese. Because now we have renewable energy, which means the way we produce and thus consume energy has got to be humankind's next big adventure. This station has brought in a new wave of metals that were viewed as very, very unsexy those many years ago. But today, they become staples in all the battery chemistries. Yes, we have our own flags, we have our own football teams, but that's one aspect of sovereignty. If you don't have energy sovereignty, if you don't have mineral sovereignty, a lot remains unpacked. Our first fund will close at $100 million. We'll be taking equity positions in 10 African projects in the first anniversary of the fund. Second anniversary, another 5 projects. Second fund will open and close at about $150 million, bringing us closer to the $250 million mark. If you've seen what I've seen in the sector over the last many years I've been in this sector, you realize we're just warming up at that stage. I also believe it's an inflection point in the sector as a whole because the sector is heading toward a financial crunch. It suffices to say traditional equity models won't cut it for too long. Central bank spending is tightening. ESG filters have been restrictive. Capital markets have not been too good in many years. If we continue that spiral, the sector will have a $2.1 trillion shortfall by 2040. Yet, critical metals demand continues to rise. The world will see 61 copper mines built, 52 lithium mines built, 40 graphite mines built in the next 25 years, if we are to meet the energy requirements for the transformation to net zero carbon. So we believe very firmly that the model of our fund is the panacea that this continent has been seeking for quite a while. We'll be counting on all your support. On behalf of the A4A Fund and the initiative, I want to thank you all for turning up here today to witness the launch. We could have gone it alone, but there's a legitimacy the community brings, and the fact that there's a small audience here gives me support that there's endorsement on what we're trying to achieve. Thank you for being here. Before I go, I want to give a special mention to my colleagues who have stood firmly beside me, sometimes even in front of me, to make this happen. Suleiman Zachary of Core International, Archibald Choko, Core International, Desmond Anyawu, Moses Ngando of AMSG, who, after our first 2-hour discussion, said to us we had a partnership, and he aptly christened this initiative, Africans for Africa initiative. He actually named it. Thank you, Moses. Yeah, we've had to do a lot in a very short period of time, in 12 months, and we're pleased to be able to say we're pretty much now at the races. Last but not least, my gratitude is, I don't think he's here, to the Minister of Mines. He's been very supportive, and yeah, he will be remembered to be on the right side of history here. Thank you very much.
Many thanks, Tim Chokun, Managing Partner and Managing Director at Matmos Metals and the Africans for Africa initiative. Please, another round of applause for him. Thank you for that. Please, we'd like the next set of presenters to be as brief as possible because we need to take a break, have tea, and of course, those who need to join the ministerial roundtable would also need to do that. So we'll quickly take a few more presentations, after which we'll take a break, and then when we come back, we have more presentations and panel sessions that will be very impactful. Now, from everything that has happened so far, I'm sure you'd agree that this is more than a summit. It's a declaration that Africa is ready to lead, to build, and thrive on its own terms, and you are a part of that goal. Please, a round of applause for yourselves. All right, now let's have the Executive Director and CEO of Nigerian Export Promotion Council. This is one woman who is doing amazing in that space. Many have termed her as a round peg in a round hole, a woman who is blazing the trail. Please, let's celebrate her as she comes forward for a few remarks, after which we would have the representative of Haja Aisha Rimi. Please, let's celebrate her. Women supporting women. It's Women O'Clock. Thank you.
Good afternoon. The Honorable Minister, Federal Minister of Solid Minerals, Honorable Dele Alake, Your Excellencies here present, the Honorable Heads of Agencies, Captains of Industries, Gentlemen of the Press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, all other protocols duly observed. It is a privilege to stand here before you today at this high-level gathering of Africa energy and natural resource stakeholders. This Africa Natural Resource Energy and Investment Summit is more than an annual conference. It is a continental platform for shaping policies, attracting investments, and formulating strategies on how we can take advantage of our numerous opportunities that Nigeria has been blessed with, particularly in the area of non-oil sector, non-oil export, as we emphasize particularly solid minerals. I'm deeply honored to be here this afternoon to deliver this sectoral address. My sincere appreciation goes to the Honorable Minister of Solid Minerals, Honorable Dele Alake, for what you're doing and the numerous initiatives that you have championed for our dear country. The impact is already being felt across the whole nation. And I also like to commend our distinguished personalities here present, heads of industries, captains of industries, heads of agencies, for all that we're doing to make this change. So on behalf of Nigerian Promotion Council, I want to commend our collective efforts to building not only Nigeria as a country, but Africa at large. As we all know, Nigeria is blessed with abundant resources and vast agricultural products to rich arable land, from natural gases to scenic destinations fit for global tourism. We have talented, resilient, youthful population. Indeed, Nigeria is blessed. At the risk of repeating what some other people have said, Nigeria, as we know, is endowed with over 44 commercially viable solid minerals, from iron ore in Kogi to gold in Osun, to coal in Enugu, to barite in Cross River, and tin in Bauchi. These minerals are useful in various industries, from construction and batteries to ceramics and to clean energy technologies. Every state in Nigeria is blessed with at least 2 or 3 natural resources. This is a fact that underscores our vast export potentials. I thought we would clap. Every state in this country has at least 2. There's no country in the world, in my opinion, that has what we have. Over 44 agricultural products. It's worthy to be happy to be a Nigerian. Yet this is not a story unique to Nigeria. Across Africa, the narrative echoes. There's gold in Ghana and Tanzania, uranium in Namibia and Niger, iron ore in Liberia and Mauritania. South Africa is a global leader in mining. They contribute about 300 billion rand to this GDP annually, and leads to the production of chrome, platinum, and manganese. Uganda's success in gold refining, where gold has overtaken coffee as its top export, proves that strategic investment in processing can drive exponential returns. Nigeria is no exception. With $800 million in foreign direct investment in 2025 and 1 trillion naira allocated to exploration in the federal budget, Nigeria's potential for success in this sector is very clear. The integration of Nigeria mineral wealth into battery production, solar energy, ICT components positions our mining sector as a catalyst for energy transition, innovation, and regional industrialization. Your Excellencies, permit me to share some encouraging data. In 2024, Nigeria recorded the highest value in non-oil export to $5.45 billion. This is 20.7% over and above what was done in 2023. So I think this is the highest ever in terms of recorded and documented non-oil export in Nigeria, $5.4 billion. Last year, we exported about 243 distinct products to about 126 countries. That's also a good. So can we clap for Nigeria? The first quarter of 2025 has already built that momentum with a growth of 24.7%. Nigeria exported to about 39 African countries with agro products, solid minerals in this space. This intra-African export was valued at $462 million and provides millions of jobs across agro-processing, textile, cosmetics, ICT-enabled, and solid minerals. This aligns with the Renew Hope agenda of Mr. President, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, which addresses job creation and poverty reduction, and the policy drive of an Honorable Minister of Industry, Trade, and Investment, Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, MFR. With agricultural products still topping the chart and also solid minerals, there's a lot that we can do to improve, to further improve the non-oil export in Nigeria. However, We must confront the reality that the bulk of our solid minerals are still exported raw and in an unstructured and informal manner. From our records, the top solid mineral exports from Nigeria in the past year includes lead, zinc, barite, kaolin, lithium. These are destined primarily for markets in China, in India, and select European countries. But beyond these traditional markets, we must diversify. We must diversify our export base, our export market. The value must diversify. Nigeria must target new destinations in Africa, in Asia, and Latin America, leveraging strategic alliances and marketing campaigns to increase demand and resilience. The African Continental Free Trade Area, AfTA, offers an unprecedented opportunity to turn these national efforts to continental impact. With 54 countries committed to lowering trade barriers and harmonizing standards, the intra-African trade minerals, industrial goods, and energy products can become a powerful engine for shared prosperity. Nigeria must seize this opportunity not just as a participant, but as a leader by improving regional logistics, scaling up production, certification schemes, and building stronger trade corridors from our mining clusters to port neighbors and emerging African processing hubs. But opportunities means little without action. One of the most urgent barriers for growth in our solid minerals sector is infrastructure. Efficient roads, ports, testing laboratories, and inland logistics hubs, and essentially to facilitate export. Export trading, processing, and packaging all rely on infrastructure that meets international standards and supports competitiveness. Nigeria has done a lot in the mining sector, but like in life, we must continue to improve on everything that we do. Therefore, in addition to the ongoing efforts, Nigeria can also learn from other African countries that have structured their informal mining sector. Ghana has integrated artisanal miners into formal cooperatives, supported by training and access to finance. Rwanda's traceability system has also brought transparency to its mineral export. In Nigeria, Nigerian Export Promotion Council has begun working with the Federal Ministry of Solid Minerals, National Bureau of Statistics, working also with our own parent ministry, Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. We have begun to see how we can mainstream informal trade. Not just only agricultural products, we are also doing that for solid minerals. And this will also help to mainstream small-scale actors and artisanal miners, particularly women and youth, into formal value chain. Nigerian Export Promotion Council has also launched the Solid Mineral Cluster initiatives in Kefi, in Kaduna, in Oyo centers that will bring together miners and processors, as well as exporters, with access to shared infrastructure and equipment and market linkages. These centers serve as aggregation hub and training points and gateways to international markets. Permit me to also say that last year we had 639 programs across the 36 states of the Federation, and including FCT, and we impacted over 65,000 people, not just only on solid minerals, on agricultural products, on services, on e-commerce, and all that. And I would like to use this opportunity to call on everyone, let's join hands together and create that awareness, create that sensitization, and build the capacity of our SMEs so that they can participate and enter into the export ecosystem. Value addition is central to this strategy. This means promoting the export value-added products such as gold bars, refined lithium, processed kaolin, and high-purity lead for batteries. Are you okay? I thought you gave me 15 minutes. Okay. Well, I'll try to round up. In all of this, there are a few key things that must be done. Market development, market access, and market linkages through B2B trade missions and other missions is a very strong thing that we need to do. These efforts must be underpinned by rigorous quality and control quality control, and continuous training. NEPC has intensified capacity building programs across the states. We plan to have tailor-made programs across our 36 states and also the Federal Capital Territory. Beyond the market, we must also ensure sustainability. NEPC supports the implementation of sustainable mining practices and environmental regulations, as well as ESG compliance. Economic progress must go hand in hand with environmental protection and community engagement. As we develop our resources, we must also protect our environment, our communities, and our future. Distinguished colleagues, the theme for this summit could not have been more timely. And as I round up, I'd like to say that let AFNIS 2025 be a pivot point. Let it be the moment where Africa, and Nigeria in particular, signals to the world that we are no longer exporters of raw ambition, but drivers of refined vision. A vision that aligns with the Renew Hope agenda of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And we also know that Nigerian Export Promotion Council remains committed to working with all stakeholders, public and private, national and international, to build a global, competitive and inclusive and high-value non-oil export sector. Thank you once again for your kind attention.
Please, let's do that one more time, please, for her. That's the Executive Director and CEO, Nigerian Export Promotion Council, Noye Ayeni. Thank you so much for that. So, quickly, our next set of presentations, please, we want to appeal to the speakers to try to keep time short so that we can conclude with these different presentation and sessions for the rest of the day. We have about maybe 6 minutes if you come to speak so that we can keep to time and be able to wrap up for the day. All right. Our next presentation is on investment promotion and facilitation in Nigeria's natural resources and energy sectors. This presentation will be done by the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission. Of course, representing the Executive Secretary and CEO of the Commission is Mr. Emmanuel Longza, Deputy Director, Investment Promotion Department. Please, ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for him as he makes his way to the stage. Please, let's do it better if we are clapping, please. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please permit me to stand on existing protocol since we're already running out of time. But it is my distinct honor to deliver this, and I bring you warm greetings from the Executive Secretary of the Nigeria Investment Promotion Commission, who would have loved to be here in person to make this presentation, but is unavoidably absent due to pressing official engagement. However, it is an honor to represent her and to confirm NIPC's unwavering commitment to positioning Nigeria as a leading investment destination, especially in the natural resources and energy sector. This is where I'll need everybody to participate. So I'll be asking a few questions, and I'm sure the MC had reminded us yesterday, she did remind us, that the cameras are going round, and so if you're able to participate very well, the cameras will capture you, and there will be a reward at the end of the day. So the questions, one is a fact. Africa remains a continent of limitless possibility and untapped potential. Do we agree? Yes, good. The second is more of a lamentation rather than a question. I, like many others, are tired of hearing Africa described merely as a land of potentials. Do we agree with this lamentation? Do we? Yes. Now, the question is, if we are all truly tired of this narrative, will you be part of this bold vision that turns this potential into tangible, lasting value? If that answer is yes, then that's why we're here. And so for investors who are here, we said you need to take an action after listening to all this. And that action will be based on the information that you have received here. For us in the NIPC, we are already profiling projects. So if you're looking for a joint venture partnership, we would like you to fill our form. And I think I have our officers here. Could you stand up for recognition, please? You would give your email to them, and then we will send you immediately after now a form for you to fill. And in that form, we'll be requesting for you to send a structured information about your business, your project, which we will now profile and put them in a form that can be promoted. Now, to go to my presentation, if that narrative is true, how do we unlock these resources, potentials that we have in Africa, and particularly in Nigeria? One, by harnessing local content for sustainable development. And therefore, this presentation will explore strategic importance of Nigerian resources, proactive steps taken in the natural resources and energy sector for investors, and then we'll aim to demonstrate how we can transform these potentials into tangible values. Let me not repeat what has been said before, but we know in the crude oil sector of the economy, we have more than 37 billion barrels of proven crude oil reserves, making Nigeria a significant player. In the natural gas sector, we have more than 290 trillion cubic feet of natural gas, which is equally positioning Nigeria as a global player. But this extensive base, combined with the growing population that we have, the strategic regional access within the West Africa, and government commitment to reforms has made Nigeria a hub for investment. Now, in terms of solid minerals, we've got a lot of it. And I'm happy that we have the states here. These are not just figures or numbers. We have Nasarawa State, we have Plateau State, we have Kogi State. I'm sure you've gone out to see what they have. And they are dotted in more than 500 locations. So if you check this, you would clearly see, just like one of my bosses just said, there's hardly any state that has not more than one. And of course, if you look at them, you can decide which of them you would want to. But then I need you to take time, go out, and then look at them properly. Now, if you look at the list of the solid minerals that we have, and then where they are located, you would see that gold is found even in Zamfara, Kaduna, Niger, limestone in Kogi, and others, a whole list. We will, of course, send you this list so that you know where they are located. Now, but what are the strategic investment opportunities? And I will restrict myself just to the solid minerals, oil and gas, and renewable energy landscape. So that's what we're going to be talking about. First, the opportunities. Mining, we have critical mining minerals or critical minerals within the lithium, cobalt, nickel, and of course other strategic minerals that can contribute significantly to economic growth. And I'm going to talk about them shortly, but we have about 7 of them. Then oil and gas, what are the opportunities? We have pipelines, LNG plants, we have modular processing facilities. We have the development of marginal fields under the favorable license terms. And then, of course, downstream expansion. Then in the renewable energy, it is interesting to note that within the renewable energy, we have the solar mini grids and then the off grids that you can invest on. We have the development of wind and hydro projects. We have the local manufacturing of solar panels, inverters, and then, of course, the storage systems. There are other opportunities in exploration and mining, in processing and value addition, in equipment and technology supply, in trade, and, of course, export. But I think at this point, I need to give you a list of other incentives that you can get if you want to invest in the solid minerals. One of them is tax holiday, and that's what we call the pioneer incentives. Here you've got about 3 to 5 years of tax exception for mining companies. And then duty-free for what? Mining equipment that will be importing into Nigeria. Then we have 100% foreign ownership. So if you are a foreign investor, you have 100% on whatever you're going to make in terms of the profit, and you can you can take it out if you want without any restriction. Now, in terms of infrastructure support, the government is going to give you all the support that you need. However, in our proactive move to ensure that, of course, Nigeria has implemented comprehensive measures to promote and facilitate investment in the natural resources, energy sectors, to ensure that there's efficient environment for global players. Now, what are some of the reforms? I'm going to take them quickly. First, we have the Petroleum Industry Act, which has overhauled the oil and gas sector, introducing fiscal clarity, regulatory efficiency, and of course, commercial discipline. Then we have the solid mineral roadmaps that can guide you through the sustainable development of Nigerians' mining industry. Then we have the Energy Transition Plan, which reinforces our commitment to a cleaner, diversified energy resource. The ease of doing business is another reform that has been taken. And here we have payback initiatives to improve key investment climate indicators. Then we have the one-stop investment center. This is to be able to streamline processes to ensure efficiency in the process. Then project profiling. Here, we promote investment-ready and bankable projects through partnership with organizations like the iMine Africa. We're already talking with them to see how we can curate opportunities. And we are already working with UNIDO Invest in ICP and NUDP investment mapping. Now, this will curate opportunities for deal room engagement, matchmaking forums, and other roadshows that will be coming your way shortly. Now, but what are the effective investment facilitation? And I have the MC coming around, so I'm concluding very soon. Now, so the investment facilitation is a bridge to ensure that you now have a very good, investment atmosphere. Now, but strengthening public-private regional cooperation We have a list. First, partnership, cross-border coordination, and the AFCFTA alignment. In conclusion, we need to now build a reliable ecosystem for the investors. And in building that, we have offered clear policies, predictable regulatory frameworks, and our dedication extend beyond just initial investment, but we can offer aftercare services as well. In conclusion, this is our call to action. As I conclude, let us remember that African resource wealth must be a foundation for progress, not a fallback in terms of needs. At NIPC, we are unwavering in our commitment to build a reliable, responsive ecosystem for investors in the natural resource and energy sector. I'd like to invite you to explore Nigeria, not just for the ground, but for the robust framework, skilled people, strategic partnership, and progressive policies that exist above the ground. For investors who are here and they are seeking for long-term value, this is it. Nigeria offers more than just natural resources. It offers opportunities, not just as a commodity-rich nation, but as a dynamic, evolving investment destination, a hope for sustainable, long-term wealth creation. Let me ask you to partner with us as we move beyond extraction into transformation, turning Africa's wealth into sustainable return and shared prosperity. Let us work together to transform our continent's natural endowment into lasting value through innovation, industrialization, and inclusive development. Thank you for listening.
I thought you would make that applause much better. That is the representative of Hajia Aisha Rimi, the Executive Secretary and CEO of Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission. Indeed, that commission is blazing the trail in what they do, and we sincerely appreciate them for joining us for this summit. We did something yesterday. Can we do that quickly? When I say Afnis, you say we lead. When I say Africa, you say we rise. Can we do that? Afnis. Afnis. Africa. Thank you very much. I understand that a lot of us need to recharge, if you like, refuel. That would happen shortly, and it will be very powerful. But for now, we need to take a few presentations before we break out and then return for the panel sessions. The next speaker is a champion of climate smart investment. He is from the International Finance Corporation, which is on a mission to scale clean, decentralized energy across Africa. He brings global insight and local strategy to our shared power challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, please let's make welcome the representative of Christian Mulama, Mohammed Aliyu, as he comes up for his presentation. Let's celebrate him.
Can I have my slide? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Permit me to stand on the already well-established protocol. On behalf of IFC, please accept our sincere condolences on the passing of former President Muhammadu Buhari. May his soul rest in peace. I'm Mohammed Aliyu, Senior Country Officer for the International Finance Corporation IFC Nigeria, standing in for Mr. Christian Mulamula, the head of IFC Nigeria, who is unavoidably absent. Today I'll be speaking about how decentralized energy supported by climate finance can unlock energy security and economic growth across Africa. Sorry, I need some help. All right, thank you. The World Bank Group is composed of 5 closely related but distinct institutions, each with a unique mandate to support development globally. Let me briefly walk through them to give context to IFC's position within the group. First, we have the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, or IBRD. It lends primarily to middle-income countries and financially stable low-income countries. These loans are often used for large-scale infrastructure, public health, education, and institutional reforms. Second is the International Development Association, or IDA, which provides grants and concessional loans to low-income countries. Its aim is to reduce poverty by financing projects that improve access to services, build resilience, and promote inclusive growth. Together, IBRD and IDA are colloquially known as the World Bank. The World Bank usually lends on the basis of a sovereign guarantee. Third is the Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency, or MIGA. MIGA provides political risk insurance and credit enhancement. Its products are particularly important for private investors looking to enter fragile or high-risk markets where political or regulatory uncertainties might otherwise deter capital flows. Fourth is the International Center for Settlement of Investment Disputes, or ICSID. ICSID provides arbitration and mediation services for investment disputes between governments and foreign investors. It plays a key role in building trust in cross-border investments, especially where rule of law concerns exist. Finally, we have the International Finance Corporation, IFC, where I work. IFC is the largest global development institution focused solely on the private sector. We provide direct investment, advisory services, and mobilization support to scale private capital in emerging markets. Our mandate is to create markets, unlock private capital, and support sustainable enterprise-driven development. IFC evaluates each private sector project on its own merit and does not benefit from sovereign guarantees. Together, these 5 institutions offer a full spectrum toolkit for development, supporting public institutions, mitigating risk, resolving disputes, and scaling private sector solutions. This integrated approach is a hallmark of the World Bank Group's strategy. A bit more about IFC, since that is where I work, you'll permit me to do that. IFC was founded in 1956, and we operate in over 100 countries. Our work rests on 3 pillars: direct investment, capital mobilization, and advisory services. We deploy our own capital and catalyze others to improve private sector delivery and development outcomes. In the financial year 2024, IFC committed over $2 billion from its own account and mobilized an additional $21 billion. This includes nearly $5 billion mobilized through public-private partnerships, signaling our commitment to scalable solutions in critical sectors such as energy, which is the topic under discussion today. The energy paradox. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to move my presentation. Sorry. The energy paradox. Africa has the largest electricity access gap. Over 600 million people in sub-Saharan Africa, almost half of the population, lack electricity. Grid expansion is too slow and expensive for rural and remote communities. 5 out of every 6 people globally without power live in sub-Saharan Africa. So, challenges and opportunities. Electrification efforts are barely keeping up with population growth. To reach universal access by 2030, the current pace must triple. Africa has 60% of the world's solar potential, but solar provides only 3% of our electricity. The potential is immense if investment can be unlocked. The energy gap undermines nearly every development outcome on the continent. Up to 4% of GDP is lost annually to power shortages. Most healthcare facilities lack reliable electricity, and 2/3 of all primary schools do not have access to electricity. Post-harvest losses due to lack of cold storage facilities are up to 40%. And in this whole mix, fragile states are disproportionately affected. Energy access is both a causality and a contributor to fragility. Decentralized renewable energy, whether off-grid or mini-grid, offers scalable, cost-effective, and fast-deploying solutions. It improves access, cuts emissions, supports livelihood, and empowers women by reducing domestic burdens and increasing job opportunities. DRE solutions like solar mini-grids and standalone home systems provide clean, fast, and modular access. They reach places the grid cannot reach, cut reliance on diesel, and create economic opportunity. DRE is not just about access, it is also climate smart. I have 2 more slides, don't worry. By replacing diesel and kerosene, it lowers emission and builds resilience. Blended finance, risk mitigation, and catalytic capital are essential. They help de-risk early-stage DRE projects and create investable assets. As impact is demonstrated, this attracts even more capital, scaling both energy access and development outcomes. I would like to just quickly speak about Mission 300, which is a joint initiative between the World Bank Group and the African Development Group, where the goal is to connect 300 million people to electricity access by 2030. I'll skip through this since I'm pressed for time. IFC is leading on the distributed access through renewable energy scale-up platform, which is a $250 million revolving facility. It includes up to $100 million from blended finance and aims to mobilize an additional $50 million of blended finance. Through DARE's program, we're aiming to support 20 renewable energy service companies to build and operate decentralized energy systems like mini-grids. We have recently signed mandates with 8 renewable energy service companies, which represent over $130 million in potential funding to scale decentralized energy. Sorry, I keep forgetting to move this. On this slide, I want to present a snapshot of our first DARES project in Nigeria, a $5 million revolving facility to Husk Power to build 108 mini-grids. This will deliver clean power to 115,000 people to support enterprise and reduce emissions. It is also structured to recycle capital, setting a model for scale. The road ahead. To close the energy gap, we need strong public-private partnerships, enabling regulations, continued innovation in business models, and local capacity building. IFC and other World Bank Group institutions are committed to working with government, investors, and entrepreneurs to unlock climate-smart, decentralized energy at scale. So thank you for your time and kind attention. I'm sorry I had to rush through it, but a copy of the presentation has been made available to the organizers, and I'm sure they'll be willing to share that. Thank you so much.
Please, if we are clapping for him, let's do it better, please. Okay, we'll go into the next sessions now. The next session will be on leveraging technology to discover opportunities, and that will be taken by the head of marketing and platform development, Core International, Archibald. Is he here? Okay. All right, we'll just give him some time to come, but we'll move to the next session, which will be speaking to data intelligence for exploration investability. In this session, we'll be talking on leveraging smart data to bridge the exploration investability gap and also build a scalable pipeline of investable exploration assets through partnerships for federal institutions and state governments. This will be taken by Damiete Amakri, who is Managing Director, Geoscan Technology. Is he here? Please, round of applause for him. Damiete. All right, okay. We'll move to the next session also, just to take real quick, on capital raising for projects via tech. Okay, I see Archibald is here. Is he? Okay. We'll just keep going. All right, capital raising for projects via tech is the next session by Neri Emiko, founder and executive vice president, Kai Smith. Is he here? Oh, all right. Okay, Archibald is here. We'll take the session real quick, and then we'll move. Okay, please, round of applause, please, for Archibald is here to take on the next session.
Good afternoon. I should say good afternoon, everybody. We just barely good afternoon. Can I get the video, please, to play? Thank you. Esteemed delegates, colleagues, distinguished leaders, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Core International and the Afnis Steering Committee, I greet you and thank you for your attention and support throughout this time. The title of this session is Leveraging Technology to Discover Opportunities. This will look at marketing tools. It will look at different types of technology like AI, but I actually reject that. I actually think this topic is actually about time, right? And how precious time is. For centuries, Africa's resources has fueled other nations' futures. The time has been extracted along with minerals. But time isn't just history, it is potential. These resources that we have, they took millions of years to form. Our nations took decades to reclaim them, and now we face a new race against time in order to meet our climate change goals. Now, the reason why some of these minerals this time is so critical is that by 2030, we believe, according to the World Economic Forum, that there will be a 300% increase in the demand for critical metals in order for us to meet our targets. Yet, just 10.4% of the global exploration spend is done in Africa. We will also see 1,500% potential increase in the demand for lithium over the next 50 years. Okay. This is despite that sub-Saharan Africa is the most cost-effective region globally for mineral exploration. The mineral value to exploration spending ratio of 0.8, which far outperforms Australia, Canada, and Latin America. So we know that the world needs our resources now. So what are we going to do about it? We could build a time machine. But no, seriously, we actually already did that. We have a platform that allows people to go to market to develop their products way faster, to allow people to compress time. And that platform is iMine. Now, iMine was designed to support governments, title holders, and investors. It allows our nations and our countries and all three of the invested parties to basically promote their projects 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It allows everybody invested, all the stakeholders, to ensure that they can compress time to meet some of these challenges that we're facing and the race that we have to get literally our house in order to meet some of these demands. It allows us to compress time as well to turn lithium into a school for our children and our future. So I guess the question is now for all the nations and all the parties and everybody present here today is, what are you going to do with that time? Thank you.
Archibald Truck, Head of Marketing and Platform Development, Core International, thank you very much for that very brief presentation. Please, another round of applause for him. Please ask your neighbor, are you hungry? What's the response like? Please, sincerely ask your neighbor, please. Are you hungry? Okay, if you're hungry, are you aware that the best ideas come when you're hungry? Anyways, don't worry. Lunch will be served shortly. You're going to be fed to the fullest. And just to also remind you that after today's session, we're having a closing dinner, which would happen just almost immediately after we close. So there's enough to eat. You'll be full, and you would leave here with all that you need. I mean, the intellect, the right contacts, I mean, those contracts that you need to sign and all of that, and of course your stomach would also enjoy from Afnis 2025, that I can assure you. But we're going to keep going just for a little bit, to cover some ground. So when we come back from lunch, we would just do the panel session, and that will be 8, and then we would have dinner. Thank you so much for your understanding. I'd like to mention the next speaker. I hope he's here, Dr. Vincent Amo, the CEO and Managing Director of Oil Dynamics Limited, one of our sponsors. If he's here, would like him to step forward. All right, it looks like they are at the ministerial roundtable, so we'll just move on. Do we have him here? Fantastic. Please, a round of applause for him. One of our sponsors, Dr. Vincent Amu, presenting on sustainably unlocking the future of African mineral exploration through a cutting-edge solution. Thank you so much for your presence and your partnership.
Thank you. Excuse me. Forward is the... Yes, forward is... Okay. So you just use the screen. Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I want to stand on existing protocols and thank you for having patience until I come on the stage. I've been listening to many of the presentations today and yesterday, and I think we're all aligned that we need to do something different Today, I just want to challenge us. I heard yesterday and the previous days, and I just came back from Botswana and from South Africa and from Democratic Republic of Congo. We attended some summits on solid minerals, and also where my company is also very active. And I hear stories that it takes years, 5 years, 10 years, just to get data and get them to the miners to start doing their work. And some of them lose hope. And also it's very costly. And in the course of doing this and gathering this data, they damage the environment, all sorts of things. People are kidnapped, killed, and worst of all, it is very, very costly. And again, that the accuracy is not something to write home about. And that discourages investment. And that is one of the reasons many people don't go into mining, because the information they have is not very reliable. So insurance companies will not insure the money. Bankers will not give you money because they don't want you to come back tomorrow and start scratching your head. Oh, please, they told us there is gold there or silver there, and we got there was none. They won't listen to that. What if I tell you the solution is here? To cut off all these problems, to solve all these problems, a company known as Oil Dynamics, in partnership with its foreign technical partners, Sky Geotech, is here to give you a solution that can cut down the cycle time of exploration, and you start mining by 90%. It sounds unreal, but that is true. What if I tell you that I can cut down the cost of your exploration by 40%? And it sounds unreal again, but that is true. Or that you don't damage the environment, you don't even send anybody to the field to be kidnapped or to be harassed. You don't seek for permission from the local chiefs to gather your data. You do everything from space. And on top of it, you've guaranteed 95% accuracy and reliability with 100% success rate. And I'm here standing here to be challenged that for the past 25 years, this technology has been used. There has never been any false call. What I mean by that somebody tells you, the company tells you, go there and drill a hole or take look for your gold or silver or whatever, and you go there and you don't get it. In the last 15 years, we used to have it as our bragging right, that we say, if you go at a particular GPS coordinate and depth, and you don't find what you say you should find, whether it be oil and gas or solid mineral, don't pay. Or if you are paid, we refund you. How does that sound? So today, again, we are here, we've heard from Professor Orama and from other people that borrowing money is the problem, and to do this thing. Money is a problem in Africa. Many people don't want to give Africans money to do whatever they want to do. But why should it be so? We go out to foreign companies, foreign countries to seek for money, to get money to come and do work here, to build our infrastructure and whatever. While we are sitting or standing on top of so much money. If I tell you there is a technology that can help you detect very accurately with 95% and 100% accuracy within a very short time, if other technologies are using 5 years, 6 years, or whatever, it can be done within 6 months or 8 months, and you have your data and you go and start mining. No waste of time, and at a very affordable rate. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to present to you a technology known as thermovision tomography, a satellite-based technology. Sorry. I hope this, okay. So a satellite-based technology known as thermovision tomography, as the name implies, it relies on heat. Unlike other technologies like seismic that relies on sound wave or aeromagnetic technology that relies on electrical resistance, this technology relies on heat. And we all know that deep inside the earth is very, very hot. Thousands or hundreds of degrees centigrade. And this is why in some countries we experience volcanic eruptions. And it is why also we have the mineralization in the first place, the thing that causes all this gold, diamond to be formed. Without the heat, there will be no mineralization. Of course, there will be a sense of pressure. And this presentation, I don't want to bore anybody with so much science and technology. I want to go straight to the story, to the commerce. How does it benefit us? So, what happens with this technology is, in the first place, this technology is not just for oil and for solid mineral alone. You use it for oil and gas. That is actually where it started, and it's making a lot of projects here in Nigeria. That is what NNPC is using. We have 6 contracts on all the 6 basins in Nigeria we are working on right now. DPL tested it, and they were wowed. So many other countries are using it. I came back from Botswana. Botswana wants to use it for the entire country, to map the entire country. The same thing with the Democratic Republic of Congo. So this technology is used both for solid mineral, for hydrocarbon, for underground water resources, as well as geothermal energy sources. And we also be talking about energy for in the industry. This technology provides us energy to do our mining, because mining is very energy intensive, and that is a very natural energy locked up in the ground. All we want to do is use technology, detect where this heat is locked up, and you drill a hole, a pipe, with one of my partners based in Germany, a special pipeline that you can drill and get your steam and drive your turbines. Very clean energy, no gas emission, no damage to the environment, and it is there whether the sun is shining, whether it's raining, or whether it's in the night or not, whether there is no wind or there is wind. So, but that's not the topic for today. What we are talking about today is about solid minerals. So, and then before I go further, we have these resources locked up underground, and we are ready to foreign countries to borrow money to come and develop our infrastructure. But this technology will help you within a few months, depending on the size. You will be able to find out what you have, monetize it very accurately, and get a deal book, and the investors will be running after you. If China or Japan or US want to come and build an airport for you, and they say, go to IMF and go and borrow money, or go to World Bank and borrow money, say, wait, come, how much do you want? 1 billion, come. I come to Nasarawa State, I just go to my database and check how much lithium is there, which I've calculated the reserve and everything. So, okay, come and build the airport for me. I'll pay you with 500 square kilometers of lithium down here. You finish, you come and mine it, and I'll pay you. I won't go to borrow money with high interest rate. Why does that sound? It sounds incredible, but it's possible. And I'm standing here, I've already signed partnership with companies wanting to do this in many countries in Africa, starting with Nigeria. And of course, I'll be having a good session with the Minister of Solid Mineral and Steel Development to make sure that this is done properly. So because we are running out of time, let me not digress too much. So this technology has so many benefits. Why we should use it? It's cost effective. It cuts the price by 40%, as I said. Accuracy is 95%, and success rate 100%. We stand to be challenged. It doesn't damage the environment, and it goes as deep as 100 kilometers into the earth. I didn't say 100 meters. 100 kilometers into the earth. You may ask me why. Because what it's measuring is coming from there. So the deeper, the better for us. It doesn't send, the satellite does not send any signal from, rather it picks up what is coming up. And what does it pick up? all these minerals locked up below the earth are having a lot of heat, and they irradiate some of this heat in form of infrared radiation. It is this infrared radiation that when it comes up to the surface of the earth, our satellite will pick it up and download it onto supercomputers, and then with our patented 30-year patented algorithm that nobody can copy for the next 30 years, we're able to deconvolute the data, millions of gigabytes of data or terabytes of data, and then put them into perspectives. Over 40 years, they have been studying the heat signature of every mineral under the surface of the earth, and recently we have got some minerals from the moon and from Mars to make sure that when we pick up any signal, we know where it's coming from. Is it from gold or from silver or from diamond or from oil and gas with 100% accuracy? It's just like two identical twins. No matter how similar they look or identical, their fingerprints will never be the same. And that is what it takes place here. So then, after we have separated the signals into the various minerals, then we will use our AI modules to now say, how far away is this mineral located? And we'll build a 3D to be able to tell you, okay, at this particular position, you have so much volume of diamond ore or gold and whatever. So you'd relax that the solution for what we have been looking for is here. This technology has been used in Nigeria about 15 years ago, but not in details, but it was just for a flyback to identify where in Nigeria you have gold, diamond, and so on and so forth. And that's what you are seeing there. We cut some profiles through the country, and we'll be able to see where the gold and other minerals are located, as you can see there. So the report is available. Then I'm just giving you a few examples. This technology has also been used in the Republic of Guinea, here in West Africa, where the project was supposed to last for a year, and within 3 months we delivered the result, and they are mining as we speak. This technology will tell you exact GPS coordinate and depth, where you can put your drill or your mining equipment surgically, like a surgeon, pick out the gold or the diamond, the quantity, the quality, and of course the expanse with high accuracy. It also tells you, after the work, it can tell you where to go and take samples, to go and do geochemistry in the lab, to come and confirm that what you said is true, if you want. But if not, you can go and sleep, and when you are ready, just go and start mining. What we need is accuracy, reliability in the solid mineral industry, to encourage the miners to go into mining, to encourage investment companies to bring the money to come and give us, for us to start mining and revive the solid mineral industry in Nigeria and all that parts of the world. So this is just another example in the Republic of Guinea. This presentation will be made available to all of you to see what we are talking about. We are not playing. So each segment of the economy has some benefit. The government has some benefit it will derive from using this technology. The mining companies have the same thing, investment banks and insurance companies. For the government, for instance, before you say license, you should know exactly what you have. You don't sell a gold license when you have lithium and other things. The people will just stay and mining gold or mining iron alone while you are taking other things away. That is fraud. You know exactly, and you'll be able to charge the licensee exact amount. The same thing for the miner. Before you buy, you know what you are buying, what is there, what's the quantity. You don't go and start wasting your time. And then for the investment companies, before they give you money, they know that you are going to find what you said is there. You don't want to come back and start telling them stories. And as we speak, in many countries of the world, they are using this technology as an insurance. Before they give you money, they say, go and use TVT, thermovision tomography, to prove, to confirm that whether it is oil or gas or solid mineral or whatever is really there before we can give you any money. And without that, I'm sorry. So And then these are the map. This is the map of the countries where we have been doing some work in Africa, Southeast Asia, North America, South America, and you name it. And also here in Nigeria, these are the companies who have used the technology for. And you can go and ask them, and some of them gave us their report to show you. All we remove is the geo-reference, so that you don't know exactly where their gold or where their oil well is, so that you don't go in the night and begin to do some work. So, and on that last note, I just want to play a short video to show you how this technology works, and I'm going to sit down. The sound is there, but it's not coming up here.
For years, seismic survey was the main tool for oil exploration. The principle of this conventional method is very well known and studied. Geologists and geophysicists use equipment that generate waves and then measures the echo which reflects the different rock layers, including possible oil-bearing zones. For detection of minerals, geophysical anomalies are studied, which show possible minerals presence. Conventional methods have the obstacle and difficulties: inaccessible terrain, unfavorable weather conditions, complex geological structures, HSE issues which can affect the quality and the result of the survey. Offshore exploration requires vessels which, due to unfavorable weather, can increase the cost of data acquisition, and a presence of gas clouds problem that is only partially solved recently. Conventional technologies are time-consuming, equipment-intensive, and the total cost is high. An area of 5,000 square kilometers can take up to 3 years, and with the accuracy rate of 20%. But what if we present you technology which revolutionized the world of exploration? What if we say that even middle-sized private company can afford it? And what if we say that there is a method with proven results up to 100%? Today, we present you new concept of exploration. Let's take a look at how thermovision tomography works. Every mineral resource on the surface and in the subsurface of the Earth has its own thermal signs. Thermal flow goes up to the surface from its source. With the use of satellites, we make the infrared scanning of the surface, and using our patented algorithms and software, we literally read the thermal information and convert it into 3D models of the area with capability of up to 100 kilometers underground. With this result, we can map out the genesis of minerals, their migration pattern, and the deposit with exact accurate boundaries. No the complex terrain, no weather conditions, no vegetation is an obstacle for this technology. It works equally effective both onshore and offshore, and it can locate oil even through the gas clouds. We also use other parameters to determine minerals' presence, such as stress of vegetation and different graphs of anomalies that correlate with the deposit and with each other. Only when all these signs match, we can say whether there is a prospective zone or not. As a final result of thermovision tomography, we provide accurate boundaries of the deposit with its geometric volume and the exact spot for drilling or digging, its location and its depth to get the optimum output. Thermovision tomography was successfully implemented in more than 50 countries for private and governmental agencies. Today, our accuracy result is up to 100%. It is independent geophysical method that doesn't require physical presence at all, and there is no need of mobilization of bulk equipment. All we need are GPS coordinates of the block, and we start our work. Faster, cheaper, and effective. Thermovision tomography is an innovative geophysical technology which requires a paradigm shift.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your time, and I will be free during lunch to take your questions, because I'm sure there is no time to take your questions now. Thank you. Herzlichen Dank.
Please, if you're clapping, let's do it better for him, please. He will be around if you want to engage him for some questions, to learn more about the technology. Please feel free to meet him soon. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, we don't want to keep you for so long. We would like to break, just for a tea break and light refreshment, and then for the next 30 minutes. And then we'll come back for the next sessions as some of our speakers we need to give them time to come into the hall from the CEO session. So please, let's just break for tea break. We have some light refreshment, VIPs and speakers. You can take yours in the next hall there. And the rest, other delegates at the other hall tent outside. You can go have your refreshments for the tea break. And then when we come back, we have the next set of sessions. And afterwards, we'll now head for lunch and then the other sessions for the rest of the day. But now, it's just tea break. Get some refreshment, water, stretch your legs. And then we are back in the next 30 minutes, please, so we can have the next sessions. Thank you.